Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are live Monday morning, January 12th, back in the studio. Excited to be here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope everyone had a great weekend. It kind of feels like 2026 is officially starting, at least for me. I know last week it started, but given that I was in Vegas, the shows were kind of on the road. So I'm happy to be back in the studio, happy to get started. And we got a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. 12 days into the year, I did not think this would be the type of year that we would have, not only from a markets perspective in terms of the prices that we are seeing, but obviously also from the barrage of different news events that have happened. Obviously, Venezuela, Trump made a lot of comments last week about the housing market, defense contractors. We got a lot of stuff that happened over the weekend in regards to credit card interest rates, which are going to be affecting all the financials. And late last night, we got the biggest piece of news, I think, of 2026. I'm sure this news will be surpassed by other things that happen in 2026. But Jay Powell, the current Fed chair, is being prosecuted right now. Or at least he's being investigated. Federal prosecutors have opened an inquiry into Fed Chair Powell on renovations at the Federal Reserve's headquarters in Washington. This was the biggest news of last night, and pre-markets are red. The reason pre-markets are red is because, well, the market doesn't love that the Fed's independence is now being questioned to such an extent that they are being investigated for building renovations. A lot of people, at least from what I saw last night on X, are, quite frankly, thinking that this is political. This is a move that Trump is making to intimidate Powell in order to get him to step down so that they can get a new Fed chair that will lower interest rates. We're going to see how the market reacts to this in the next 40 minutes when it opens. S&P 500 right there down about 0.5% in the pre-markets. You got Bitcoin that tried to make a little bit of a move last night to 92,000, right back down to 90,500. Citi did upgrade Palantir to a buy at 235. I read their note this morning. It's actually a pretty incredible research note they put out, and we're going to read a little bit more of that and talk about it in a bit. So we got a lot of headlines, a lot of stuff to talk about, but the biggest story of the day, based on what happened last night, is what's going on with Powell and this investigation. And partly the reason for the metals that are getting a rally, copper's past $6, silver is past $85, gold just hit a new all-time high. I think right now in the pre-markets, 46.09. Yeah, I think that is, last night it was 45.94. Right now we're at 46.09. That's up another 2.24%. Silver's at 85. I believe silver's market cap is now higher than NVIDIA. If I'm not wrong here, silver looks like it's aiming in at 4.6 trillion. Yeah, part of the reason these guys are going higher is likely because of the fact that Powell has been indicted, and Powell is being prosecuted. And, the market is thinking, well, I guess we have to counteract the dollar in some capacity. And this is what we're seeing right here. So let's get into the allegations and what's going on, get some coverage on it, and then we will keep going from there and talk about the implications it has for the markets, and then we'll get into all the other headlines we got. NVIDIA is down in the pre-markets. AMD is down. All your AI stocks are down. Some of your data center names are up. I don't know. I'll put the red-green poll in the chat right here. Feels like it's going to be a relatively red day given this investigation, but maybe it's a head fake and we end up getting a reversal towards the end of the day.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell struck a defiant tone in an unprecedented video statement on Sunday night, revealing that the Department of Justice had served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas in an ongoing and previously unknown criminal investigation. Powell said the subpoenas were served Friday and relate to his testimony about the Federal Reserve's building construction project before the Senate Banking Committee last June. Now, President Trump has been deeply critical of Powell over the past year and has intently scrutinized cost overruns at the Fed's construction project. But Powell said the investigation is just a pretext.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation.
I know the video feels fake. The video is very real. It came out last night, like 4 minutes before I went live for the Future Show. And basically, Powell is saying the only reason I'm under investigation right now is because of politics and for interest rates not being at the whim of the president versus for the American people. And the DOJ is obviously having a separate opinion right now, but this is the first time in about 40 years we've seen a clash between the executive branch and the Federal Reserve at the level that we're seeing right now.
A Department of Justice spokesman told CNBC on Sunday that the Attorney General has instructed her U.S. attorneys to prioritize investigating any abuse of taxpayer dollars. Now, a source familiar with the investigation confirmed to CNBC last night that it is being run out of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, which is run by U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, a longtime political ally of President Trump. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt declined to comment last night. Powell's term as chairman ends in May, and President Trump has been interviewing candidates to take his place. It's not clear exactly what the Department of Justice may be investigating here, but President Trump's close political ally, FHFA Director Bill Pulte, as early as last summer, accused Powell of lying to Congress with his characterizations of the construction effort. Guys, a lot of questions here, not as many answers this morning. Back over to you.
Eamon, just on the merits of it, and we can get into everything else about it, because obviously the markets are reacting to it, and I think you're seeing a lot of reaction, even from some Republicans, though not many. If you actually go back and look at his testimony, is there anything in it that is suggestive that he was not truthful? And is there anybody in Congress that is beyond Bill Pulte, who's not in Congress, but is obviously a part of this administration? Is there anybody in Congress who's ever mentioned this before, ever?
Yeah, look, so a couple of things. I think, it's going to turn on the question of, how did Powell describe the luxury items, quote unquote, that are involved in this construction project. We'll see exactly what the DOJ is investigating here, but it'll, I think, be around his language about whether there are special sets of elevators, whether there's a special lunchroom, all that kind of thing, and what type of marble is being used, and whether those things are materially false. The challenge for the DOJ is that they're going to have to prove that it was a material discrepancy, first of all, and then it was done sort of with knowledge of foresight. And I think those things will be relatively high bars for them. And the danger here for the Department of Justice is they investigate here and they end up coming up empty. And that could cause them two problems. One, public embarrassment. Two,
the person in Congress, there is a person.
Tom Tillis.
But not Tom, no, he.
All right, so the question now becomes, and this is where people can put their opinion in the chat. Do you think this ends up becoming a big deal for the markets? Do you think it actually affects the markets? I mean, I think we are red in the pre-markets right now, likely because of this to an extent. There's probably some level of just taking a breather, given last week we had a pretty intense high beta rally. I mean, I didn't even realize the S&P 500 ended at 694 last week. I mean, you wouldn't think that was the case given our favorite names like a Tesla, NVIDIA, et cetera, haven't really made that big of a move. But S&P very close to 700. It's back at 690 right here, down about 0.5% in the pre-markets as we get into earnings. I mean, my gut reaction tells me this is not going to have a massive, massive impact on the market. However, I mean, if this goes on for the next couple months, as in the DOJ continues to seriously invest Powell and has the burden of proof of showing that he was like negligent when it came to all these renovations, et cetera, and Powell has to be in this back and forth, I don't think it's going to be the best thing in the world for just the broader economy, and then obviously independence of the Fed. You're seeing bond yields in the morning not really like that this is happening right now. We're back to basically 4.2% on the 10-year. The biggest concern with the new Fed chair being Kevin Hasset, and the reason I think Trump started interviewing other people was that the bond market was saying that, hey, if you pick someone who's a loyalist to you, we're not necessarily going to be happy, and we're not going to be buying up these bonds, and yields are not going to come down, which means the intent of what Trump is trying to do by getting rates down, which would theoretically get long-term rates down, which would help mortgage rates, which is like the ultimate point of getting these rates down at the end of the day to open up the housing market. That wouldn't happen if the bond market perceived the next Fed chair as a loyalist. So the fact that Trump is now going after the current Fed chair, given he only has about 4 months left on his term, I thought it was quite surprising. I really didn't expect that to take place, especially after all the geopolitical things that have happened in regards to Venezuela, potentially Greenland, Cuba, et cetera. I mean, the name of the game is volatility. It feels like that is how we can start the year. And that is also why silver and gold, I think, are moving at the rate they're moving at. Gold, a new all-time high, 46.19. And silver right here. I think silver hit 86, so it's just below its all-time high, but this is just incredible. Silver and gold should not be moving up 3 to 7%. What it seems like every other day. Now, maybe they're down 3 or 7% tomorrow, but is weird. I mean, this is weird that this is happening. This is obviously the commodities market and the metals market saying that we aren't really trusting some of the things that are happening in this administration. I'm sure there's a lot of other reasons as well, but the Fed chair thing last night created a whole new host of volatility. The one asset that's not benefiting from all this volatility, which you would think would benefit, obviously, is a Bitcoin. And, it's not really seeing the ramifications of this. Now, maybe if Powell is actually fired or he steps down or something, then Bitcoin benefits, because then we know that rates are coming probably down to 0% or something. Probably not 0%, but they would still come down dramatically. But until then, it seems like the money's going into gold and metals, and we're not seeing that type of massive move in the crypto market. So overall, look, I think it's going to be short-term volatile. I think also Trump is doing this as an intimidation tactic. I don't necessarily think he's going to go forward with this and actually try to put the guy in jail. But if this investigation does last for the next 4 months until May, it is going to be a risk on the equity markets and the broader economy as well, from a Fed independence perspective, along with the credit markets, simply because people are going to be annoyed that the Fed chair cannot accurately decide monetary policy. They're going to have to be worrying about this investigation. And so I think time will tell, but this is another thing that we probably can't worry about here. I think we can get to 5 to 6% on the 10-year. See, I don't think 5 to 6% on the 10-year happens. I think something would have to dramatically go wrong for that to be the case. We had 4.8% at one point in January last year, and a lot of stuff has changed since then, including 75 bips of interest rates coming down. But we haven't really seen the effect on the 10-year in a meaningful way, which means mortgage rates. The only reason they're down is because Trump is promising QE from Fannie and Freddie. Pulte came out yesterday and said we've already started buying back $3 billion of mortgage bonds from the $200 billion that Trump promised last week. I don't know how they're doing that, where they got the money for that, but I mean, that's the only reason I think mortgage rates actually came down versus the perception of inflation coming down. Even though we get CPI and PPI this week, and it feels like inflation is going to be coming down. I mean, based on all the data we've looked at in the shelter markets, which should be the biggest contributor to inflation, and gas prices are getting close to like $2.20 a gallon across the entire nation. In New Jersey, I'm seeing like $2.60. So, I mean, we are seeing progress on that front. Is that going to be enough to lower rates, given GDP is as hot as it is, given the labor market is not necessarily deteriorating? We don't know. There's a 5% chance for a January rate cut. I really wouldn't expect getting a rate cut in the next couple of weeks. But that Q&A is going to be spicy, because Powell likely will be asked about what's going on with this federal investigation on January 28th when we get the FOMC meeting. All right, so that's what we have in terms of the Fed. Let's talk about credit cards, because that's the most exciting topic in the world. Trump on Friday said that companies will need to now cap their credit card APRs at 10%. And late last night, he doubled down on that statement.
On the cap on credit card interest rates,
yeah,
coming out on Friday. What happens if the credit card companies don't comply by the January date?
Well, then they're in violation of the law.
Very
severe things. No, I want a cap on credit card interest rates, because some of them are 28, almost 30%, and that the people don't know they're paying 30%. The people out there, they're working, and they have no idea that they're paying 30%. No way. We're putting a 1-year cap at 10%, and that's it. They know it. They've really abused the public. The credit card companies have totally abused it. I'm not going to let it happen.
So, I mean, we did a little bit of research last night together, and there's 2 ways he could do this. Number one is congressional support. Josh Hawley and Bernie Sanders introduced an act back in February of 2025, which is the Credit Card 10% Cap Rate Act. The entire premise was to cap credit card rates at 10%. So there is some level of bipartisan support for this. He would have to get 2/3 of Congress to agree on this, or you would need to do a unilateral executive action that would likely be challenged in the courts. SoFi is actually flat right here in the pre-markets. It was down last night. Noto did respond over the weekend and said that, hey, if we do have this type of cap on credit card interest rates, then personal loans and the demand for personal loans, the TAM for personal loans will likely open up, which I think is actually a very smart way that Noto is thinking about managing the business. Again, Noto has been a banker in Goldman Sachs for so many years. He probably understands this stuff better than most people. So I think he is ready to see if that were to happen. But companies like JP Morgan, American Express, Capital One, where $15 billion for JP Morgan, $6 billion for Amex. They make a lot of money off credit cards. Those are down 2 to 3% of the pre-markets. I wonder what happens to those business models. and how it necessarily plays out. Now, I am not philosophically opposed to cutting or capping the rates at 10%. I don't know how the business models of these credit cards necessarily survive, or if they can give you cash back, because for you to get cash back rewards, someone has to be paying a high APR. But maybe we have to agree as a society that people shouldn't get cash back when they shop at a grocery store from their United Chase credit card. I mean, maybe that's the terms that we have to come with, because the only reason you're getting that cash back is because someone is paying a high APR. I mean, maybe that's the new form of society that we have to live in. But the other question besides the rewards is just access to credit. And the question is, will these companies give out credit if they know they can't make a decent return because their entire business model gets flipped up overnight? And then do loan sharks become the alternative? I mean, how do people actually get access to buy and sell things, which is ultimately done based on credit? So I just don't know how it's going to play out. I don't think Trump has the executive authority to do this. Now, again, last night he said if companies don't comply by January 20th, they will be in violation of the law. What law? Where is the law coming from? Where is this law being instituted from? And then B, what does he mean by violation? Like, if JP Morgan doesn't comply and keeps their credit card APR at 25%, like is he putting Jamie Dimon in jail? Like, it's weird. Now, Klarna is up because they're a buy now, pay later company. And so they're getting the benefit of this. They're up about 4.2% because maybe some demand shifts to buy now, pay later, where the merchant is responsible for the interest more so than the consumer. But yeah, the spoken law of Trump. It's like, where exactly is this coming from? How's it going to be implemented? And quite frankly, if we're being like honest here, it really does feel like Trump is throwing stuff at the wall for the midterms. I mean, I think they've seen the polling on affordability. They've seen that the entire first year of the administration was really good for all of us as asset holders. And it basically sucked for anyone else, because if you didn't own assets, you really didn't get the benefit of what was happening in the country. Now, you can push back against that and say prices came down for eggs and gas and all this. And there's ways to push back against that. But there's a reason Mamdani was elected. I mean, there is a growing part of this country. The Olin podcast was talking about this over the weekend, that socialism and these ideas of wealth inequality are gaining more and more momentum when Elon Musk gets a $800 billion net worth. And a lot of people don't understand how he got that net worth because of the lack of education around capitalism and business, and quite frankly, the demonization of capitalism and business in this country. Well, you're going to get people that ultimately go to the left. And so I think the Trump administration is realizing they did a really good job for Wall Street, and Main Street might have had some impacts on them, but maybe they don't feel like they're having those impacts, especially because the labor market, we added 50,000 jobs last year per month, which is not really the best job growth in the world. That is where Trump goes, okay, I've got to go after defense contractors. I've got to lower interest rates on mortgages. I've got to cap credit card rates. I've got to make it seem like I am defending Main Street. And I don't know if the policies are actually going to be able to live up to the expectations. By the way, Biden did this as well. He said, hey, I'll cover all your student loans. He got elected. He wasn't able to do any of it, but he probably got elected on a lot of people that voted for him because of that promise. I think right now Trump is putting out promises. I don't know how they're necessarily going to come true. But I'm really curious because, as you can see in that video, he said last night, look, if these companies don't comply by January 20th, they will be in violation of the law. So he's acting like there is already a law that somehow is in place and that companies have to comply with it, which means, I mean, he's assuming that it's gonna take place. I just don't know exactly when or how he's going to be able to make it happen. So I think the theme of the year so far is volatility from Trump throwing stuff at the wall. And ultimately, we're going to see if this plays out and if it happens in a way that is more aggressive than not. On top of that, Trump is continuing to talk about Cuba and Greenland. And I mean, that is another thing that ends up going on the list of things that could be volatile this year if we start deciding we want to conquer the rest of the world.
What kind of deal are you looking for from Cuba?
You're going to find out pretty soon. We're talking to Cuba, and you'll find out pretty soon. And one of the things I want taken care of, and one of the groups I want taken care of, are the people that came from Cuba that were forced out or left under duress, and they're great citizens of the United States right now.
All right.
You have a lot of people forced out of Cuba unfairly, so we're going to take care of, most importantly right now, we're going to take care of the people that came from Cuba that are American citizens or in our country.
What kind of deal are you looking for?
And this is what Trump said on Greenland yesterday.
If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will, and I'm not letting that happen. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland, and I am not going to let that happen.
Is there any deal they can offer you? They're like,
Yeah, sure. I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland. If we don't take Greenland.
The Cuban president came out and said there are no ongoing talks with the U.S. Now, Greenland, it has been leaked in multiple reports on Friday that Greenland and the United States are actually talking independently outside of Denmark. So, I mean, Greenland might be more open to this idea of the United States coming in versus Cuba. But it obviously just creates a lot more volatility, and it's hard to imagine how exactly it's going to play out. And then on top of that, you've got Iran. And you've got a lot of different stuff going with Iran. There have been many protests over the weekend. You have reports of about 2,000 people that have died in Iran. In Los Angeles yesterday, there was an entire protest for the Iranian people. There was a U-Haul truck that ended up running through some of those people. I mean, it's just like crazy things that are happening with these protests. And I think that situation, one could argue the reason the pre-markets are down or the reason why markets are going red is not even because of Trump and the Fed. It's because of Iran. And what could be happening here? 690 on the S&P. Trump did comment on it last night, saying that there are potential abilities for the United States to intervene. And he didn't literally use the word strike, but he did say there is a chance that we can go in. Iran has a lot of oil, just like Venezuela. So I mean, there is a world where that becomes a much bigger issue. And if it does, the market usually fades the geopolitical headlines because they come and go, but maybe this one would be more serious. Here was Trump talking about Iran last night.
I think so. Don't you think so, CNN? Don't you think so? Wouldn't you say that they probably do at this point? After going through it for years with me, being hit, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, the Iran nuclear threat wiped out. Don't you think, and then you just had Venezuela, don't you think, she says, CNN, do you think they take your threat seriously? Wouldn't you say they do after all of the things we've done? What a stupid question.
Are you coordinating with allies on the response to Iran?
Mr. President, when will you meet with Maria Corina Machado this week?
I don't know. I hear two.
So you got Trump basically implying that, yes, they should take me very seriously, given what I've done in the past. And, I think the really interesting about this, and I was saying this last night, 2016 Trump would not have even thought, in my opinion, of meaningfully striking Iran or going into it because it was all America first, right? And the whole idea was let's get out of foreign policy, let's stay in America, let's solve domestic issues. We've got people dying in this country. That's what we need to focus on before everything else. And 2026 Trump is like, hey, Cuba, Greenland, Venezuela, Iran, how many different places can we intervene in, with the understanding that if we are able to effectively gain some level of leverage or military presence in those regions, then potentially we get the benefit of, quite frankly, oil, which could lower prices in the United States for consumers, which could prop up our domestic economy. So it is a shift over the past 10 years from this idea of let's not care about the rest of the world to the rest of the world is kind of the most important part of what it seems like the beginning of the second part of Trump's term. And one of the things we haven't heard about the most over the past 12 days to start off 2026 is the number one thing that Trump was talking about in 2025, which is tariffs. There's zero discussion about tariffs. Now, the Supreme Court's going to make a decision in a couple of days, hopefully, and we get some response on what's going to happen with tariffs. But tariffs do not seem to be the issue. What seems to be the issue is how can we get into a variety of other different countries and potentially interact with them in a different world. So that's what we got with the Trump updates. We're going to see how the market reacts in about 20 minutes when we open. But you had a lot of random policies that came out last week from Trump around the military, defense contractors, housing stocks, quantitative easing from Fannie and Freddie, credit card rates as per the weekend. And we'll see if any of that has an implication. MasterCard and Visa down about 2% going into this week for the second week of 2026. Warner Brothers Paramount provides an update to Warner Bros. Discovery shareholders on actions it is taking to advance its superior $30 per share all-cash offer. Dude, Paramount needs to get a life. This is getting kind of ridiculous. The Warner Brothers chairman came on CNBC last week, and he was just like, Netflix has a better offer. We're probably going to go with Netflix. Warner Brothers continues, unless they offer like 10, $15 billion more than Netflix, I don't think they're going to get this asset. So it's kind of weird. Netflix right there, 89.10, that they continue to try to get there. The space stocks, once again, moving pre-market. Redwire, that's up 5.46%. Rocket Lab got an upgrade to $100 this morning. That one is down 0.31%, but Rocket Lab holding on to the 80s. ASTS, Lunar, I mean, all your space names have just been incredible. ASTS down about 1.7%, and then Lunar is down about 1.4%. Paramount plans to nominate directors for election to Warner Brothers Discovery Board. Okay, I think they're going to try to do a variety of different things, but unless they offer more money, they are not going to get this thing over Netflix. They've got to offer like $32 in cash versus $30 in cash. I mean, that's how shareholders would meaningfully say, okay, we have to entertain this offer. That's an extra like $10 billion. But until that, I don't know if that plays out. Tempest. So a lot of companies have actually released some preliminary earnings. Tempest is up 12% right here. They disclosed $1 billion in total contract value. They're growing above 30%. So that's why you're seeing Tempest get a 12% move right here. On top of that, Duolingo, which never does this, they disclose preliminary Q4 metrics. DAUs are up about 30% year over year. Bookings are at 329 million versus 335 million. Or that's their metric versus a 334 million estimate. So a little bit of a miss on the low end of that. Duolingo's down 3% in the pre-markets based on that metric. 171 down about 2.79%. So I guess we're going to see some more companies release some preliminary earnings. SMCI is one of the main companies to do that as well. But Tempest is up. Duolingo is down based on some of these numbers. Did Trump just tweet something? What did Mr. Trump say? Congrats to Dina Powell McCormick, who has just been named the new president of Meta. A great choice by Mark Zuckerberg. She is a fantastic and very talented person who served the Trump administration with strength and distinction. DJT. Who is Dina Powell McCormick? I feel like I know that name. Dina Powell, former Deputy National Security Advisor of the United States. Wow, she just got a job as Meta as the president and vice chairman. Bro, Zucks. Zucks just decided he is going to make sure this stock pumps. Powell McCormick's connections to the global finance community have put her at the center of deal-making across industries that matter to Meta in the AI arena. Zuckerberg said, Dina's experience at the highest levels of global finance combined with her deep relationships around the world make her uniquely suited to help Meta manage this next phase of growth as the company's president and vice chairman. In a separate post, Zuckerberg said Powell McCormick will be involved in, I keep thinking J Powell because I see Powell, will be involved in all of Meta's work with a particular focus on partnering with the governments and sovereigns to build, deploy, and invest in finance Meta's AI infrastructure. Wow. All right, there you go. Little chess move by Mr. Zucks right here. If the CapEx ROI is not clear, he's going to make sure the street knows that they are clear on having regulatory approval for everything by having a former deputy defense advisor and Republican official to join the company. Is Meta pumping on this? Is Meta getting some action? Meta, it's been stuck around that 640 range. Meta 650, still down about 0.38%. Did hit 657 in the pre-markets. And now that's flat. Okay, there you go. That's what we got for Mr. Zucks. Yeah, pump for like 30 seconds. I mean, again, I think these big tech companies are going to have a lot of different tools to react to this new administration. In a world where Trump says the things that he says overnight and, you know, all the finance companies are down 3-4% because now credit card rates have to be 10%, you just don't know what to expect, and you've got to be ready for it at every angle. Iran was up 5% last night off a rumor that they're partnering with Anthropic. Some random Twitter account started that rumor, and it kind of caught like wildfire. It's now up 1.7%. There is no Anthropic headline, at least that I've seen in the pre-markets. But you did have that gave it a bit of a pump yesterday night. Palantir. So Citi, our boy Tyler Radke, which if you guys remember in the depths of 2022, he was on CNBC. He said this stock is not worth $10. I remember reacting to these videos from Mr. Tyler. He was upset that we invested in SPACs. Our boy has changed his mind. He has changed his mind. He upgrades Palantir to $235. He says 2026 consensus estimates look set to move significantly higher as enterprise use cases accelerate based on Citi's CIO survey and industry conversations. Citi also points to accelerating defense budgets and modernization urgency, creating a government super cycle. And here's the part that I thought was incredible. They think Palantir could deliver 70 to 80% revenue growth in 2026. Look, if Palantir delivers 70 to 80% revenue growth, obviously the multiple that's priced into Palantir is breaking in growth rates like that. And they're growing right now at 63%. The market's probably pricing in a lot more than 63%. But if they actually get to that level, they would be the only company in the country that's at their size, even ahead of NVIDIA, that's growing 70, 80%. Now, will that happen? I don't know. I think this government supercycle argument does make sense. And obviously Palantir is in a very good position to capture a lot of that upside. If the macro tanks, will it even matter? Because at the end of the day, their multiple will be contingent on the macro. But there's no other software company. There's no other AI company that's growing like that. The only other company is NVIDIA. And NVIDIA is not going to grow 70% this year. So it would be incredible to see that happen. And yeah, I mean, quite frankly, Palantir does need to put up those reaccelerating revenue growths to continue holding their multiple. But if they can hold their multiple for a second year in a row, in a world in which the macro might not that be easy to navigate just based on pure organic revenue growth, I mean, that would be just incredible to see from them. So we'll have earnings in February. And if they can guide, that would be close to $7 billion in revenue for next year, up from $4.5 billion. So it would be a pretty big move. And I think it would start to really legitimize their presence in the overall SaaS sector. So that's what we have with Palantir. Rock Lab right there down about 0.38%. Netflix down 0.32%. You got the Max 7s that continue to get hit. Tesla's down 1%. Amazon did get a little bit of a breakout last week. That's down another 0.84%. Google has just been incredible. I mean, Google is down 1%, but it's been holding the high 300s in the 320s, 330 range, which is very, very nice to see. The China stocks are pumping. Baba's up 4%, Baidu, JD, all these guys up 3%. I think this is due to China stimulus. There's also a ton of reports around different Chinese models that are gaining a lot more traction. And as a result, that's helping the Chinese stocks continue to show that they are going to be a force when it comes to AI. Cloud growth is accelerating above 30%. You have price wars that are coming down. Obviously, the Chinese governments are stimulating. DeepSeek continues to release different models. You have plenty of reasons for why the Chinese stocks could be a rotation in the broader ecosystem of markets. MicroStrategy bought another 13,000 Bitcoin this morning, 1.25 billion, 91,000 is their average. They now have 687,410 Bitcoin at 75,000 per Bitcoin. Saylor continues to get the money to keep buying the asset. And, we haven't really had a crypto winter, one could say, yet. Happens, maybe it doesn't. But if it doesn't happen, and this just becomes an accumulation year for Bitcoin, then Saylor likely will continue to buy more. Here's Kevin Hasset, and here's what he had to say about 10 minutes ago about Venezuela and the broader push for affordability from the government.
Department about that. I've not talked to the Justice Department ahead of them contacting Jay, and so I don't really have anything to add other than I respect the independence of the Fed and the independence of the Justice Department, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, that's what.
It's so funny. I think Hassett's realizing Jay Powell just got investigated. And if I become the Fed chair and I don't follow suit, I'm going to be investigated as well. I feel like that's what Hasset just realized. He's like, yeah, if I actually take this job, I'm signing up to do everything that Trump tells me I have to do.
Obviously, there's the way that things look, Kevin, and you can't, obviously, I can't, definitively say that this threatens the independence of the Fed. But in terms of optics, and what Jay Powell said, I'll hang it on what the chairman said. He said this was nothing more than a pretext to force him or to put pressure on him to do the president's bidding on lowering rates.
Well, in the fullness of time, we'll find out whether it looks like a pretext. But right now, we've got a building that's got dramatic cost overruns, and plans for the buildings that look inconsistent with the testimony. But I'm not a Justice Department person. I hope everything turns out okay for Jeff.
Some of the prospective candidates to replace Chair Powell have been outspoken about problems within the Federal Reserve Now, there are some people that say, look, they should have probably raised rates more quickly and taken away some of the punch bowl to keep inflation under control. But others say since then, and you would argue, I think, Kevin, that the economy is in good shape from a lot of different viewpoints. I don't know whether the Fed gets any credit, but at worst, at least they didn't stop some of these positive things from happening. Are there deep-seated problems at the Fed, in your view, institutionally?
I think that what I'd like to see at the Fed, regardless of who's Fed chair, is just a little bit more introspection. That we let inflation get out of control. It'd be nice to know how that happened, and nice to know that we have a plan to make sure it doesn't happen again. And that kind of stuff, I think, would be great for the world economy. But the bottom line is that the economy is booming right now because of Trump's policies, not because of the Fed. The Fed has amongst the highest interest rates on earth right now, and President Trump is frustrated with that. But I don't think that has anything to do with what was going on this weekend.
Yeah, I had Howard Lutnick over the weekend say that the Fed that the country could get to 6% GDP growth. I mean, we're going to have to grow ourselves out of this crisis that we're in regards to debt. But if we don't grow ourselves out of it, then obviously the issues with the Fed are going to be exacerbated because the interest payments that we are paying will continue to become monumental. In fact, in Q3, we ended up paying as a country $1.47 trillion of interest, which is a little aggressive to say the least. But, we're going to have to grow out of this issue if we want to have any chance of actually navigating it. This was something Bill Ackman said over the weekend as well, that at this point, it's not about paying back the debt. It's about growing out of it, because if we don't, we're likely going to be in a tough situation. A couple of headlines right here. Mexican president just reported having a good conversation with President U.S. Trump. That came out 5 minutes ago. Fidelity just came out and said Bitcoin may be entering a super cycle. Hopefully they are right about that, because then Bitcoin price will likely go higher. But you got Fidelity being bullish on Bitcoin. Mexican president said they had a good conversation with Trump. Dan Ives put a target on Apple, 350. He thinks AI Siri, iPhone 17 sales, Cook announcing staying on as CEO, and Google Gemini partnership are going to be the 4 key strategic and financial goals for Apple in 2026, which would create some more momentum for Apple as a company to get to that $350 level. Other headline right here, your boy Michael Burry is bearish again, and he has picked a new stock to go bearish on. Does anyone know what stock it is? Anyone want to guess? It's not just NVIDIA and Palantir this time. That stock is a stock that has a little bit of debt. Oracle. Michael Burry now owns puts on Oracle. He shares concerns that he has directly shorted the company as well. He criticized Oracle's push into cloud computing services, which requires a costly build out of data center capacity. He has also avoided shorting larger companies like Meta, Alphabet, and Microsoft, but is bearish on the artificial intelligence trade. In fact, Burry over the weekend said, with a doubling down, it's kind of confusing because at first he tweeted on Saturday that, we need a lot of energy infrastructure to be able to compete with China. And it's like, okay, if you need a lot of energy infrastructure to compete with China, why? In my opinion, it would be because we have all this AI demand. If you think this AI demand is fake, why do we need all of this energy infrastructure to compete with China? And his argument was like, well, if we want to compete with China anyway, we need energy infrastructure. But it's like, yeah, but the demand for energy is coming from something like a revolutionary technology like AI. Without it, I don't know if we're going to need that much demand. Then he doubles down and says the return on investment will continue to fall almost on all AI companies that will go bankrupt, and much of the AI spending will be written off. Will it be the panic of 2026, 2027? It does not have to be. I really do think he's just throwing stuff at the window at this point. Almost all AI companies will go bankrupt. Really? That's the argument? I mean, if that's the case, then this market is the greatest short of the past 50 years. It's got to be a better short than 2008. It's got to be a more obvious short than 2000. I mean, 2008, you have to figure out what was happening with mortgage-backed securities. This is just a little bit easier. This is just a little easier to be like, oh, the AI companies are fake. They're going to go bankrupt. So you got Burry saying all of them are going to go bankrupt. And then you have Elon Musk saying, don't go to medical school because AI is going to replace medicine and everyone's going to have free healthcare.
When do you think optimists will be a better surgeon than the best surgeons? How long for that?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, that's
I'd say 3 years at scale.
Yes.
All
All of a
there'll
sudden,
there'll probably be more Optimus robots that are great surgeons than there are all surgeons on Earth.
And the cost of that, but that's an important statement in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
Because medicine, I mean,
I'm not like absolutely certain,
could
but
be-
I'd say if you
it's
say
four-
like
if it's
4
4 or
years, I'd
five-
be absolutely
If it's 4 or
certain.
5 years, who cares? It's
Yeah.
still
Extreme precision.
yes.
3 years. Yes. Better than any probably I'd say if you like put a little margin on it, better than any human in 4 years.
Who's in plastic surgery?
By 5 years,
residency
it's
is
not
gonna
even
hate this.
close.
I think your point was medicine is going to be effectively free. The best medicine in the world.
Everyone
is
will have
effectively
access
to everybody.
to medical care that is better than what the president receives right now.
So don't go to medical school.
Yes,
Yeah.
pointless. Yeah. I mean, unless you, but I would say that applies to any form of education. There's not like some, I do it for social reasons.
Yeah.
You're not going to medical
If you want to, if you want to
Rule that
hang
one
out with
out.
like-minded people, I suppose.
And then Elon said, by the way, AI is going to be so good, you don't even need to worry about saving money for retirement.
One like side recommendation I have is like, don't worry about like squirreling money away for retirement in like 10 or 20 years. It won't matter.
Either we're not going to be here, or
It's you won't need to save for retirement. If any of the things that we've said are true, saving for retirement will be irrelevant.
the services will be there to support you. You'll have the home, you'll have the healthcare, you'll have the entertainment.
One like side recommendation I have is like,
I mean, dude, it's a very stark contrast. You've got Michael Burry saying all this shit is fake. It's all going to go out the window. Everything's going to go bankrupt. None of this is real. We got 4 minutes till the market open. And then you got Elon saying, dude, money's not going to be real. You don't have to worry about retirement in 20 years. You don't have to worry about getting healthcare because the surgeons are going to be able to do everything for free with Optimus. I mean, you have two radically different perspectives on how the world is going to play out in the next 20 years. Now, I think Elon's exaggerating a little bit here because I think it would be a bit irresponsible to not save for retirement and not have proper health insurance. I think people probably should go to med school. Like we probably do need more doctors eventually. But like if he's right and we don't need any of that, I mean, it's going to be kind of crazy to see what happens over the next, in his words, 3 years. That's probably means more like 10 years. But two different perspectives. Two different perspectives. Burry saying everything's going to go bankrupt, none of it's real. And then Elon going balls to the wall saying, nope, it's going to be very real. And we're going to have more excitement than you could possibly imagine. On top of that, speaking of Elon, you had Chamath that had a big contrarian prediction over the weekend. He thinks that SpaceX is not going to IPO. He thinks that they are going to reverse merger with Tesla, which I think would, that would take Tesla stock to like $1,000 immediately. If that were to happen, I don't think it will happen, but I mean, what inside knowledge does Chamath have to think that SpaceX won't have an actual proper IPO?
Number one is I don't think SpaceX will IPO. I think that it will reverse merge into Tesla. And I think Elon will use it as a moment to consolidate control and power of his two seminal assets into one cap table. Oh my God, I love that. Wow.
Well, he's talked about that before. He's talked about having a holding company for years of all of the collection. You could put Neuralink in there too, right, Chamath? You could put in the Boring Company as well.
Sure. I'm just giving you my contrarian take. There will be no IPO of SpaceX. I think it'll just be, it specifically will be a reverse merger.
That'd be kind of crazy if it happens. Maybe this is the master plan that Elon has to get Tesla to a $10 trillion market cap. You just merge it with SpaceX and boom, you add another couple trillion to that market cap already. At 30% of the way there, it would go to $3 trillion. Now, look, I don't think that's going to happen. I think there will be a proper IPO, but if that does happen, I mean, Tesla's going to have a pretty incredible year if it just becomes like Elon Musk holding company at that point, which does feel like it should be the master plan of what Elon's been trying to do. But maybe that might be something that could play out. All right, folks, here we go. 30 seconds until the market opens. Happy to be back in the studio. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll be live with the market close again today. We got earnings that are starting in 2 days. On the 13th, we get bank earnings, airline earnings this week. And then we're going to see how the market overall reacts to a variety of different things that Trump has said. We had that credit card news over the weekend. We'll see how the financials react today. We'll see if this high beta rally in a variety of different sectors and thematics can play out. And we'll see if Mag 7 catches a bit of a bid as we head into the second week of 2026. Monday, January 12th, 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Tesla opens down 439.71. That's down about 1.1% as we open up the day. Baba's up 5%. Meta's down 1%. Lunar's down 1%. ASTS is down 1%. Rocket Lab, you cannot slow down the lab of rockets. That's up 1%. Netflix goes green a little bit. S&P 500, 691 gets a bit of a green candle from the pre-markets. That's down 0.44. It was down 0.54, so a little slight reversal, but nonetheless still red on the day. SoFi goes down 2%. That was to be expected. Still holding 27, high 26s, not as bad as I think what people thought would happen. JP Morgan's down about 2%. Grab is flat. Nebius is flat. APLD is down 3%. Zeta is down 1%. Copper ETF, that's up another 2%. COPX, that's your copper miners ETF. Copper past $6 over the weekend. I mean, the commodities trade, if you have any exposure to it, obviously continues to do well, whether it's silver, gold, or copper. Palantir, 177, that's down 0.26%. Micron, down 1.3%. AMD, down another 1%. Amcor, down 3.93%, holding $50 right there. Where is NVIDIA? NVIDIA, 184.50. 184.50 on the day for NVIDIA. Robinhood actually goes green. Robinhood, again, has been stuck between 112 and 118, basically, over the past 2 weeks, has not really been able to make a breakout above 120, even with high beta getting momentum. Robinhood is high beta, but I think crypto has been what's holding it down. Amazon at 247 just goes green. Amazon, one of the first Mac 7s to turn green on the day. Duolingo, they released preliminary earnings. That's why that stock is down 4%. Bookings were down about $2 million versus expectations. The VIX is up 9%. I mean, you are seeing volatility spike with the VIX. That is something that we're going to have to watch out for. Yeah, up 8.49%, 1572. The VIX has been relatively tame over the past couple of weeks. It's first day of getting a pretty big move. Rocket Lab just went red. Redwire just went red. Walmart is now in the NASDAQ. They have replaced AstraZeneca. Walmart up about 2% right here. So that is getting some love as new NASDAQ ETF inflows will be buying a piece of Walmart every 2 weeks. S&P trying to recover and go green. Look at that candle. 692 right there, up from 690. I didn't even know we closed in the 690s on Friday. Like, I didn't even realize that happened, but that did happen. So we are closing in potentially on that 7,000 level. Open Door, that's down 4% after pumping last week. Ondas, that's down 2% after pumping, I think, 30% last week. Oklo, that's down 2.7%. Palantir just went green. Oracle's down 0.35%. Zeta's down 2%. Zeta did get a 24.50 close last week, which was really good. I think this thing taking a breather for the next couple of weeks and consolidating around 22.50 to 23.50 is not the worst thing in the world before getting into earnings. Amcor, that's down 3%. MasterCard, that's down 2%. American Express, down 4%. A lot of American Express's business ultimately is the credit card. Broadcom goes green, 348. That means NVIDIA should be green. NVIDIA very close to going green, 2 cents away from getting some green. Baba, 158. That one continues to be green. Silver, SLV, is up 6%. Silver continues to be just one of the best assets this year. Gold as well is up 2%. I think those two have now overtaken NVIDIA. I mean, gold already overtook NVIDIA, but silver should be second in the world. And then Robinhood, 117, up 1.7. Meta almost green. Tesla also very close to green. It's getting there. That one's still red. Where is Apple, which got hit to 250 last week? Apple right back at 258, down about 0.3%. Iren is up. The data center names are up. Iren right there, 4712. That's up 2%. HIMS, wow, below 30, or at least it touched below 30. I don't know about HIMS. I mean, like, I think it's cheap at this level. It's just, you know, all those people that were screaming HIMS had no moat a year and a half ago. I think we're seeing the ramifications of Novo partnering with Amazon and the lawsuits, and HIMS was going to take on Big Pharma. They're not really succeeding against Big Pharma. And you got a lot of people thinking, hey, where's the moat? Now, will this company be more valuable than it is today in 5 years? Probably. But is it that sort of explosive growth stock that people thought it would be? Right now, it's being heavily questioned, given all the stuff that's going on with Novo. Novo has been having a relatively good year, as that stock's up about 10% for the year, up another 1% on the day. Silver right here going for 85. Again, the Chinese stocks, KWEB, there's your China ETF. That's up 3% on the day. Wow. Making a hell of a move. How about SanDisk? Memory names. Wow, up another 3%. SanDisk is just unbelievable. Up 500% last year. Year to date, it's already up 60%, 59.09%. The memory super cycle, JP Morgan said over the weekend, likely will last until 2027, which means these names probably have higher to go, even if they are a bit more cyclical than not. NVIDIA right there went green, 185. That is up. Axios is reporting that Iran's foreign minister and Trump are speaking over, or already held a meeting, or are discussing potentially holding a meeting in the coming days. Okay, so you got the United States and the foreign ministry of Iran likely beginning to start conversations, which I think was inevitable that they would have to begin talking. So Axios reporting in the next coming days, they likely will start conversations. NVIDIA right there, 185.23, Robinhood at 117. Where is Oscar? Trump did say last night he would veto any healthcare ACA subsidy extensions. Oscar's not really reacting that negatively toward that. It's only down 2%, but the House did approve Oscar's, or not Oscar's, but the overall ACA subsidy extensions. The Senate needs to approve that now for that to have a meaningful impact on Oscar. Nebius right there, 98.52 as that goes green. AMD at 204. That one also getting a little bit of a bounce as well. EOSE, another energy name, that's green. United Health is down. Wall Street Journal reported that the company used aggressive tactics to boost Medicare payments. This is not that surprising given all the different controversies that came out last year about UNH. I think for them to get back to 400, they need to grow EPS. These headlines are going to take them down in the short term, but realistically, if they continue to guide on EPS, the multiple is pretty damn cheap on UNH. But you might be stuck in a narrative stock that just has a ugly narrative around healthcare. SMH, that one goes green on the day as well. BMNR, did they put out a report today? I think they put out a report on how many ETH they bought. They will be having their shareholder meeting in Vegas next week. VG, are we pumping VG? We are down 3% on VG. Okay, they bought 24,000 Ethereum last week. This is the lowest amount of ETH they bought, I think, ever. 4.167 million ETH they now have. 24,000. I think they staked another 340 million of ETH yesterday as well from some reports that I saw. So they are actively staking their Ethereum. But they are starting to slow down a little bit on the aggressiveness for buying. Meta goes red. Duolingo 5% down. My goodness. Duolingo, another one of those narrative stocks that in the age of AI doesn't have the best narrative. CoreWeave right there, 82.29. CoreWeave goes green. They got Brad Gerstner's approval last week as one of the names that he likes the most in the data center space. Palantir 180. 180.92. That's up 2%. Palantir goes green. Oh, yeah, the CFO of Duolingo is leaving as well. That's the other thing that happened. Greenland's government just came out with a statement. All NATO member states, including the United States, have a common interest in the defense of Greenland. It's a very vague statement, but I mean, you got Greenland that's taken Trump's offer seriously, whereas a lot of the other NATO countries aren't really that happy about it. JP Morgan says they're cautious on U.S. stocks amid the Fed probe. JP Morgan's trading desk is cautious on U.S. stocks after news that the Fed faces a criminal investigation. Analysts warn that threats to Fed independence could weigh on the market in the near term, though any de-escalation might create a short-term buying opportunity. You know, the thing about Trump is he'll change his mind tomorrow. So, like, if this gets de-escalated quickly in regards to the investigation, then, you know, maybe it's not a big deal. But if this lasts for another 4 or 5 months until Powell retires, it's going to be a little ugly. Rocket Lab, 87. Rocket Lab, 87. Amit, do you still have Duolingo? Remember, I never bought it personally. It is in my ETF. So yes, I still have it in the ETF challenge. And I mean, I could have literally picked anything, anything other than Duolingo and done better. I'm still in second place, but our boy Matt Money has boomed into first place, and he's likely not giving that up anytime soon, given he has Rocket Lab up 228% on that, and then ASTS up 138%. SoFi is up 81%. Tanner's up 21%. Steve is up 6%. Chris is up 9%. I'm up 26.5%. And our boy Matt is up 51.95%. Ondas, this one continues to pump. So they diluted by $1 billion. Some people think the dilution is really bad because the warrants that are attached to the dilution are going to be really ugly. Other people are saying it doesn't matter because it's more institutional demand for the company. I mean, regardless of how you feel, the stock is pumping. So that's up 9%. Another high beta name, trades at 200 times sales, continues to be a thematic in the drone space that's getting a lot more momentum. And Kratos, Red Cat, all those names. Kratos is up 4.3%. Red Cat as well, up another 3.2%. So that's getting some love. OSS, wow, 16% on the day. We talked about this last week. Another small cap. I don't have a position in this, but this was one of the names that we did discuss over the past couple of days. 17% on the day. They did get a contract, a prototype contract from the government. They're essentially one of the names that's involved in edge compute last week. And if that prototype goes well, then you're looking at a potentially $1 billion contract on a company that's worth $200 million. NVIDIA right there, 185.40. That one goes green. Accelera actually had some good drug results today. That was up 4%. This one has not really moved ABCL in a while. That's getting a little bit more love based on some reports they had this morning. Planet Labs, that's up 9%. All the space names continue to get some love. ASTS right back to 100. And then Rocket Lab, 3.43. Every time you think the space trade is showing a little bit of weakness, it just comes back stronger. And although Rocket Lab's not really been able to get above 90 yet, it feels like this one wants to. I wonder if there's going to be a dramatic moment where the space trade just stops and it just all comes down or takes a breather, like in a violent way, or if it just normalizes throughout the year and there will be some dips here and there, but it's not going to be this violent like top and then epic crash that we see in the space names. And obviously the SpaceX IPO is going to be a big catalyst to keep that going. Amazon right there, 247. That is also green. Critical Metals, CRML, that's up 4% on the day. A lot of the rare earth stocks are continuing to catch a bid. MP, that's up another 3%. The small caps, 259 on the S&P, they are outperforming this year. That is also the January effect that we've talked about a while ago, as small caps get more momentum. And it seems like that's not stopping. Nebius right there, back above 100. Nebius went above 100 like 7 times last week. So, I mean, Nebius is actually going to have to stay above 100, I think, for it to be more believable. But this is a name that it's incredibly volatile. It's really been stuck between 85 and 100 for the past month now. Getting a breakout, I think, over 110 would be a bit more exciting. S&P, are we going green? We are very close to going green. 692. 692. I ran right there at 49. That one also going up. So you got that's up 6%. All the data center names. APLD crushed earnings last week. If APLD could go up 20% after crushing earnings, I don't know why Iran and Nebius can't do the same. Same thing with CoreWeave. They all have different debt profiles that they have to worry about. But still, if the demand is there and the high beta excitement is there, then those names should get a pump if they have great earnings. Yes, Hegseth was at Rocket Lab's headquarters on Friday afternoon, which was nice to see. So the Golden Dome contract that a lot of people are speculating Rocket Lab will play a major role in, along with the eventual Neutron launch. I mean, those are important catalysts. Someone just bought $4 million worth of Palantir calls. Strike is 190, February 6th. Not that far away, less than a month away. So you've got some people loading up on those call options for Mr. Palantir. Where's SoFi? Are we still below 27? We are just below 27, 26.95. 26.95 here. All right, let's see what other macro news we have. So we will get CPI and PPI this week. CPI, I think, is tomorrow. PPI is Wednesday. So that will be really important. We got some Fed talk later today. Japanese bond yields are at their highest level ever on the 30-year. That whole yen carry trade hasn't really played out yet, but Japan is continuing to print money even though their rates continue to surge higher. Amazon right there, 248. Could we get a 250 on Amazon? That would be exciting. VIX is down a little bit. It was up 9%. Now it's up 7%. Got a little bit of a retrace right there. And silver and gold continue to be very strong. Fix at a fresh all-time high. Comfort Systems, HVAC play. This one was one of the better performing names last year, up another 2.53% market cap right here of 36 billion. Visa's down 2, American Express down 4, MasterCard down 2. So all of your finance names still getting hit. BMR just went green. Datadog's down 0.61. ASML's down 0.5%. Fluence Energy, that's down a little bit. Where's Bloom Energy? The energy names are taking a little bit of a breather today. That's down 2%. How about Quantum? D-Wave's up about 1.1. And then IREN, 46.65. It would be kind of wild if SpaceX merged with Tesla. Yeah, I wonder why Chamath said that. I mean, he's been a private investor in SpaceX for a long time, so it's kind of weird that he put that out there. Ondas now up 10%. It kind of feels like he knows something. But that was a very interesting contrarian opinion that he had on that. VG continues to get hit. VG is trading range bound over the past couple of weeks. I mean, it was stuck around the low 6s, and now it's stuck around the high 6s, low 7s. AMD once again goes green. But VG, once again, down 4%, penalty right there. Almost at 181. Fear and greed, that's a good question. Where are we at on fear and greed? We are at neutral, so we are not at greed yet, even though it feels like it in certain sectors of the market. We're at 51. We're definitely not near fear. And, the space names, the energy names, nuclear names, and obviously the drone names, I think are the ones that are in the most high demand. I think here's the question for everybody. Space, nuclear, energy, and drones are catching a bid. Who do you think is buying them? Is it retail or is it institutional? Like a name like Ondas, who's buying that? 200 times sales, 2 million in revenue, 6 billion market cap. Like, who's buying this right here? Are there actually companies and hedge funds that are getting exposure to this, or is it just retail? Because I think that's my biggest question. Because if it's institutions, then we're in for a very high beta year. If the institutions are like, yeah, that's like that, like we don't care about valuation, we just need exposure, which has happened many times in history. One could argue in 2021, the institutions loaded up and they didn't care about valuation. Or are there just random people thinking, oh my goodness, I need to buy this because it's up 50% this year. And I think it's going up another 100%. NVIDIA just goes red. In a world in which NVIDIA goes red on their earnings, but other names are pumping the way they're pumping, it's just confusing to say the least. And it starts to make you think, like, what exactly is this rally, or how is this rally playing out? But you also can't fight the market. I mean, if the market says this is the name, these are the sectors and the names that we want to go higher, then all right, those are the names and sectors that are going to go higher. Zeta right here, back above 24, doing a good job holding 24. Transmedics, that's at 137. Open Door down 3%. Oklo down 1%. Micron taking a bit of a breather right here. Doug says retail is pumping, but toots are accumulating for the inevitable rug pull. You had Goldman Sachs come out over the weekend and said that we think by mid-February we will have the beginning of a decline. Now, very similar to what Tom Lee has been saying as well, that early on you're going to see that decline. It would be very similar to what happened last year. Last year we also had a decline around that time, mid-February. But given that everyone's predicting that, I wonder if that actually happens. I mean, no one was predicting a mid-February decline last year. Last year it just kind of randomly happened, and then we had Liberation Day. Now people are trying to predict it, and it makes you think maybe that just doesn't happen. And as a result, maybe this trade has a lot more room to go higher. Archer, that's up 2.5. Archer is green. It's just a swing trade. Okay, so if it's just a swing trade, the question is, when do you get out, right? Like, for everyone who says, well, these high beta names are a swing trade, I mean, you have to know when to get in and when to get out. And unfortunately, it's not easy to figure that stuff. I mean, if everyone knew when to get in, when to get out, everybody would win every swing trade. So if it's not a swing trade and it ends up being a bag that's held, the question is, when does it top out? Or do these names just compound at 20% every single month for the next year? So I think it's a swing trade for some people that understand how to get in and get out. For others, I don't know. I mean, that's obviously trying to time it, which, yeah, it's possible, but it's also not easy. Tempest right here up 11%. As that continues to go green. Where is the IREN deal? There is no IREN Anthropic deal. So for those that said there would be, This is basically fake news. I mean, maybe there is. It just hasn't been released yet. But Iran right there is still up 6%. Rocket Lab 2.7, and then SoFi still down 2.4. CoreWeave gets the move, gets the pump. Similar to Iran, CoreWeave getting a lot more love. Nebius is the only name that's not really getting as big of a move as those other two. Tesla goes green, does it? Tesla goes green, 446. Apple was the world leader in smartphone market share in 2025. That headline just came out. Apple, I could not believe Apple fell below 260 last week. I really thought Apple was going to hold on. I thought Apple would be seen a little bit more as a safety trade, but I mean, in a world in which high beta is moving, you can't be an Apple. I think that's the thing. If some of these names are up the way they're up, like stuck in Apple, you just can't be there. So you might have had some institutional money just leave and say, we're going to go to the semis, we're going to go to the data centers, we're going to go to energy. Somewhere different from here. Amit, my average on Rocket Lab is $4. What are your thoughts on selling? I would say you hold on to that forever. When you get in that early on what could be a generational company, I mean, Rocket Lab has all the tenets, in my opinion, to become a generational company. You hold on forever. There's like literally, you should have zero anxiety of selling, unless you actually need the money. At best, I think maybe you take out your cost basis. But like, if you have Palantir at 6, Tesla at $15, Rocket Lab at 4, I don't think those companies are ever going to those prices again. That's where the magic of compounding quite literally becomes magical. So I think you hold on forever. I mean, there will be drawdowns, but the drawdown from 85 to 50, if that happens again for Rock Lab, will not matter when Rock Lab's a $200 stock. So I personally would hold on. But on a certain part of your position, you can obviously sell super far out of the money calls, collect some premium. I mean, if you sell a Rock Lab call for $100 this week, how much is Rock Lab paying for $100 this week? Which, don't do this and get mad at me if Rock Lab goes to $100, because it might do that. But this week, for $100, oh my goodness, dude. Someone is paying you 80 cents. So if you have 2,000 Rocket Lab shares, you can sell 20 contracts and make $1,600 in 1 week off putting your shares up for sale at $100. There's 13,000 of these that are open. People really think Rocket Lab's going to pump to, okay, so let's be more conservative. Let's forget $100. Let's do freaking 110. You can still collect $15 per 100 shares, which means if you have 2,000 shares, you can make $300 in a week. 300 times 4, that's $1,200 a month. That's some good money. It's not like that's bad money. For assuming Rocket Lab in 1 week will not go up 26%. Not in a month, in a week. I mean, that's incredible. Obviously, the call option market, or the broader options market in general for Rocket Lab, is getting juicy if those are the premiums that you're seeing. ASTS, that's up 1.32%. SoFi still down 2.4%. AMD, are we getting a move? AMD, we are getting a move right here, 206. That's getting some love. And then what's the other one? NVIDIA, is that going green? NVIDIA going green as well. All right, so AMD and NVIDIA going back to green. But that's crazy. So if you have Rocket Lab shares at 4, and let's say you have 5,000 shares and you want to put up 2,000 for sale, and you're okay with 2,000 of them being sold at $110, which I mean feels unlikely for it to pump 30% in a week, and you get paid $300 just to wait. And that's the benefit of buying early and having a big position and letting it play out over time. Grab getting a little bit of a move, 1.36%. We did have an update on Grab this morning. They are officially piloting their AVs in Singapore. They got approval to test their autonomous vehicles in Singapore, as you're seeing right there. So you're starting to see some more momentum with the AV ecosystem in Singapore. Again, I think the stock is cheap. I bought a lot last week. I continue to buy under $5. Grab's going to be doing $1 billion of revenue by Q1 of this year. They're going to probably do $930 million in Q4. So, this is a company that's going to be doing more than $1 billion of revenue, trading at a $12 billion enterprise value. That's profitable in a region where none of their competitors are profitable. I don't think the stock stays below 5 forever, but we're going to see. As of now, it hasn't moved compared to a lot of the other high beta names that are out there. AMD, that's up 2%, continuing to get more momentum. Yes, they're also piloting drone delivery in Singapore as well. So, a lot of things that they need to focus on, they're starting to really put into action right there. Planet Labs, that's still up 8%. Red Cat, that's up 4%. Palantir still up 2.2%. VG down again 4%. UNH is down 1%. And then SanDisk and the memory names continue to go higher as well. SanDisk up 3%. Amcor, are we back to 52? Amcor has been a champ, dude. Look at that, 52.50. I think this one gets re-rated. One of the only packaging names in the United States. I think this one gets re-rated. And it holds on. By the way, I was talking to Triple V in Vegas. I told him about Amcor when it was $30. I didn't really know how many shares he bought. I was like, hey, did you buy Amcor? He was like, yeah, I bought some Amcor. I was like, how much did you buy? He was like, I bought some. I was like, how much did you buy? He's like, like 600,000 shares. I was like, oh my freaking goodness, dude. So he's up like 20 million on the position. He hasn't sold a single share. So he's in. He's made a nice little 20 million from Mr. Amcor. 52.30 is there. And again, the stock was at $30, I think, a couple weeks ago. And it looks like, this thing could be a $75, $80 stock if they continue to double their revenues, which if you just double their price to sales multiple, then yeah, stock trades closer to $75, $80. Palantir right there, 180.80. Snapchat, is this thing ever going to move? Who uses Snapchat? When is this thing going to move? It's been $8 since I was in college when they IPO'd. Like, for the amount of users they have and the influence they have for the youth, this thing cannot catch a bid. $8.23. My kids use it. I used to use Snapchat, but it was like years ago. Rock Lab 86.60. Archers up 1.8. Just cannot catch a bid. How about PayPal? How is PayPal below 57? What is wrong with this stock? It does not deserve to be trading here at these levels, dude. Like, if you look at a Mac, PayPal is now only $20 higher than what it was back when their website looked like it literally was from 1999. I mean, this is just crazy that this chart trades the way it is. It kind of makes me think PayPal is going to be the breakout this year, but management just sucks. Not from an execution perspective, but just like, I don't know. They don't really embrace retail. They don't talk to the people that matters. All their commentaries that we're in a transition year. I mean, like, they keep saying the same shit that's not really getting the street excited. Their buybacks aren't doing anything. I don't know. Feels like a classic value trap, yeah. Feels like it does. The problem is they're not growing. If they were growing, it wouldn't be a value trap because, like, there's so much growth there that eventually the street can't deny it. Like, eventually growth catches up with stock price if the growth continues in the metrics that matter, EBITDA, free cash flow, et cetera. But they're growing. It's just like 2-3%. It's not the type of exciting growth that the street needs. In a world in which a Nebius is growing from 300 million to 7 billion in ARR, like, it's hard to be stuck in a PayPal. 86.84. Corey getting a massive move right there, up 9%. Yeah, PayPal trades at a sub 10 forward PE. That is wild. But one could argue it's also really safe if you want to just like write some calls against it if it potentially bottomed. Any thoughts on Rubrik? Sam loves this one. We did a deep dive on it a couple weeks ago. Wow, it's below 70. I never fully understood them. Granted, I think I read one article and then I listened to Sam talk about it. I know it has to do with like data, identity. I can't really fully even explain the business, but the numbers look really attractive. And I think that's why Sam got into it. But even a name like Rubrik in the SaaS space, they trade at 11 times price of sales. Zeta trades at 4.7 and they're going faster than Rubrik. Now, maybe they don't have the type of moat that Rubrik has or the type of TAM or whatever, but like just number for number, they're growing faster and their multiple is cheaper, which is why I think Zeta is the best SaaS name right now that's attractive outside of Palantir, because obviously Palantir's valuation is not as attractive, but Palantir is growing faster than any of the SaaS names. But Zeta is the second one up. I mean, there's not a lot of other companies growing at 34%. Not Snowflake, not Datadog, not CrowdStrike. I would absolutely buy Zeta over Salesforce. I mean, dude, Salesforce is just like, forget the narrative on it. Obviously, Salesforce is probably a much stronger company than Zeta just because it's bigger, but like they're too big. I feel like they're too big. They're too boring. They're not exciting. Zeta's a freaking $5 billion market cap. You don't need a lot to make it move that much. And they're on the verge of profitability. Whereas Salesforce is just in a bigger league. Paraj, thanks for the super chat. Look at Goldman Sachs. It quietly moved last year, and M&A will only help them further. Yeah, that same thesis you can apply to every bank. The M&A thesis, the IPO thesis, whether it's Goldman, JP Morgan, BlackRock, all those guys should benefit from it. The thing is, financials made a really big move last year. Like we're talking about 30, 40. Citi was up 60%. I wonder if they can replicate that this year. And I think they probably will, because eventually the money's going to have to go somewhere. You kind of just take your pick. But at that point, you could also buy XLF, which is the finance ETF, if you don't want to make a specific pick. My question is, will KRE and the regional banks follow what the larger banks like Bank of America and JP Morgan have done? I think there should be some more alpha there, but yeah, the banks are a good trade this year. The banks should continue to be a good trade. AMD still moving, 206. Rubrik's still below 70 right here. How about ServiceNow? I'm not going to lie. I can't even tell you what the hell ServiceNow does. Like, they provide service now. I get but they have the split. They're down from the split. Another SaaS name. They're growing 19%, price to sales of 11. I mean, again, they're just not that exciting. And AI has been good for them. It's not been like Palantir good for them in terms of the growth momentum. So I don't know. SaaS in general has sucked last year outside of Palantir. So if we're gonna get a SaaS rebound this year, I think all these names will pump. But I think you want to find the best value within those names. Wow, Baba, 163. Why is she moving that heavy today? 8%. I mean, I know there's some good China headlines, but goodness. That's a big move from Baba. This is the last week headline. Baba will order 200,000 H200 chips from NVIDIA. That's last week. I don't think that's a big headline today. Alibaba powers 100% of Chinese automakers' operations, both locally and abroad, in their cloud services. That's another headline I'm seeing. China's getting some love. China's getting some love. Who's buying Visa and MasterCard? Are we fading the Trump 10% cap right here? There's no way he's actually going to make this happen, right? And by January 20th, is he actually going to make the freaking credit cards 10%? Lilly, that's up 0.5%. That is green. Applied Digital moving with Iren and CoreWeave. That's up another 2%. They had a great earnings. And they're making a move. Joseph Carlson he likes MasterCard, right? That's one of his big picks. I think he's had it for a while. MasterCard down 2.6. I mean, the business models of MasterCard and Visa are an incredible business model. Like, these are companies that it's going to be very hard for them to go out of business. And I'm surprised they're only down 2%. I mean, them only being down 2% when a big part of their business is credit cards that just got hit with a pretty crazy policy means that the market does not believe that policy is going to happen. And that likely probably recovers instead. Wow, NVIDIA and Lilly to invest $1 billion in an AI innovation lab. NVIDIA and Lilly launched $1 billion AI innovation lab to transform drug discovery and apply AI across clinical, manufacturing, and commercial operations. Wow. Okay. NVIDIA, they've always been part of drug discovery. It looks like they're taking a big step right here with NVIDIA. They are calling it BioNeMo platform, adopted by life science leaders to accelerate AI-driven drug discovery. Quite frankly, this was one of the partnerships I think people were looking for, because drug discovery should be one of the biggest use cases of AI. NVIDIA collaborates with Thermo Fisher to build autonomous lab infrastructure for scalable scientific discovery. Okay, so NVIDIA, 2 announcements today. Thermo Fisher, they are partnering with. That stock up 0.5%, and then Lilly up 0.5% as well, as they're partnering with Eli Lilly. Janet Yellen just said we are living in a banana republic based on Jay Powell's investigation. Janet Yellen is the former Treasury Secretary. Paramount plans to launch a proxy fight for board seats at Warner Brothers and filed a lawsuit seeking information about its deal with Netflix. We talked about that. So Paramount, again, trying to go after Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers down 1.32%. NVIDIA, Thermo, and Lilly. There you go. They are at the JP Morgan conference where they announced this morning with Lilly and Thermo. This is good. This is the types of partnerships we want to see with NVIDIA. Again, after that Vegas event, it once again proves to me it's really hard to be bearish on NVIDIA if they continue to beat and raise the way they're doing. And based on all the things we've seen with TSM, the demand for chip manufacturing is just not slowing down. TSM right there, 322, that still is at a $1.67 trillion market cap. Let's look at the heat map today. Relatively green outside of tech, but we are green. Walmart's up. Healthcare is obviously up. Financials are down today based on the credit card stuff. Tech is up a little bit. Palantir's up. Broadcom's up. And then utilities are up. SoFi loses 26.50. All right. I mean, January 30th, Noto's got to give us some excitement right here. Down 4% on Mr. SoFi. Zeta right there, 24.22. CoreWeave still up 8%. Snapchat's flat. Grab fighting to get back above $5, 4.94. And then Tessie at 4.48. Is it almost 10:30? No, not yet. Do we get the 10:30 sell-off? It hasn't really happened that much this year. For the past 3 years, it's happened every time. We're only a week into this year, but I wonder if 10:30 we see if this happens. Generally, when do you buy calls? When IV is higher or lower? I focus less on IV and I focus on like when I think the stock is undervalued compared to the strike price that I'm buying it at. So if a stock is $10 and I'm buying a call for 15, theoretically, if the stock goes down to $8 and I think that it can get to 15, if my thesis tells me 15, then that's when it's more attractive to me. So obviously IV plays a role right there, but if the stock is $14, maybe I'm not buying that $15 call, unless you want to buy it in the money. But I try to focus more so on like, hey, am I getting an attractive entry? Because you want to pay a low premium for the call. And if you're buying a call, you're already making a directional claim. So you have to be making the correct directional claim. There's really no room to be wrong. So then at that point, you like the discount because you think the discount eventually will be rewarded if you buy it more out of the money. Here's that coverage on what Yellen had to say just now.
Level since about early September. Let's get to Eamon Javers in Washington with more details on this investigation. Morning, Eamon.
Yeah, good morning to you, Carl. Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell struck a defiant tone in that unprecedented video statement on Sunday night, revealing that the Department of Justice had served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas in an ongoing and previously unknown criminal investigation on Friday. Now, Powell said the subpoenas were served on Friday and relate to his testimony about the Federal Reserve's building construction project before the Senate Banking Committee last June. Now, President Trump has been deeply critical of Powell over the past year, and he's intently scrutinized these cost overruns at the Fed's construction project. But Powell said this investigation is just a pretext.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation.
A Department of Justice spokesman told CNBC Sunday that the Attorney General has instructed her U.S. attorneys to prioritize investigating any abuse of taxpayer dollars. Now, a source familiar with the investigation confirmed to CNBC that it is being run out of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. President Trump denied involvement in the DOJ's action, telling NBC News on Sunday, "I don't know anything about it, but he's certainly not very good at the Fed." Now, it's not exactly clear what the Department of Justice may be investigating here, but President Trump's close political ally, FHFA Director Bill Pulte, as early as last summer, accused Powell of lying to Congress with his characterization of the construction effort, guys. So the question is going to be, what did Powell say? Was that material? And did he knowingly lie to Congress? And presumably, that's the subject of these subpoenas that were sent to the Fed, to try to get some evidence about what the Fed chair knew at the time and whether what he said was accurate or not.
Also, Amy, well, right, and that's what Jenny Allen said, that she thinks the odds of that are virtually zero, that he lied, given that she knows him well. But the other question politically is if he's shooting himself in the foot here. He's trying to get through a new Fed chair and potential other nominations, and you already have Senator Tillis saying that he's not going to vote to confirm that. I mean, that it's going to be a pretty tight vote then.
You did have one of the senators come out and say that if this investigation continues, we're not going to vote to confirm new Fed presidents. And part of the reason of that is because he thinks that Fed independence is being challenged.
For Senate banking.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, Senator Tillis sits on Senate banking, so that's a key one. And then the other question is, the congressional reaction aside, can they get enough evidence in this investigation to prove that it was material and that Powell knowingly lied? Can they get to an indictment? And if they get to an indictment, can they get a jury to convict Jay Powell and sentence him to prison? That seems, at this early stage, a very long shot. And so the potential for the administration here is some embarrassment if they fail on one of these thresholds. I mean, at some point or another, either the U.S. attorney is going to conclude that she can't indict, or they're going to indict, and you have the possibility that a jury will say, we're not going to convict. Those two things are potentially embarrassing now that the administration has raised this dramatic idea of an investigation into a sitting Fed chair.
Amy, I'd love to get your perspective more broadly speaking, but things we're covering closely here, and obviously given all of your years in Washington. In the last few days, we've had the president say that institutions should not be allowed to own or buy single-family homes, preventing that. We've had a potential cap of one year on the interest rates that credit card companies, banks, many of them, are able to charge their customers, 10%. We've had the president say that defense companies should not be able to return capital to shareholders through buybacks or dividends. And we've had him talk about ExxonMobil playing it too cute after its CEO, Darren Woods, expressed at least reservations around, let's call it, security guarantees in terms of returning to Venezuela. I mean, in your years, is there anything that approaches this?
No, we've never seen anything like this, David. And, the president is somebody who views the authority of the presidency extraordinarily expansively. He believes he has the ability and the responsibility to really direct all aspects of national life. And you're seeing that here with this sharp populist turn. They're concerned about affordability. They're concerned about the midterm elections. They want to show Americans that they're doing everything they can to lower costs for American voters. And at the same time, they're asserting enormous authority over vast swaths of the U.S. economy. Now, some of that authority the president is asserting he doesn't necessarily have. I mean, it's not clear that he's going to be able to tell, banks that they can't go in and invest in single-family homes. It's not clear what he's going to be able to do in terms of the defense sector. It's not clear necessarily that he's going to be able to restrict the credit card fees to just 10%. All of that is stuff that he says he has the authority to do, and he's sort of asserting, but it's not backed up by legislation, and some of it might be challenged in court. So I think about the Big Lebowski, the response to some of this stuff, well, that's just your opinion, man. And at some point, the institutions will push back on a lot of it. But by pushing on all these fronts simultaneously, what the president is doing is expanding that scope of authority and looking for places where there's no pushback, and then he can push a little farther there and get what he wants. And what he wants is an economy that's responsive to him and does what he tells it to do, and it sets himself up nicely for a success in 2026 in the midterms.
Big Lebowski, phenomenal movie, by the way. Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, 1998 classic. So for those that haven't watched it, what are you doing with your life? Incredible, incredible movie. But look, Trump is, he's throwing a lot of stuff at the wall. And I think the stuff he's throwing at the wall, it's either going to work or it's not going to stick. But he's going to keep throwing it. SoFi right here losing another 4.2% right here. And
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see, like, does it actually end up working out? And I mean, all of us that own these stocks are obviously going to be implicated by it. Obviously, the finance names are getting hit today because of one of the things he's throwing at the wall with his credit card rates. But the question is, does he have the authority? Like, at the end of the day, at least in this country, you need to have the authority to pass some of this stuff. And he might not have that authority. Dude, I'm not lying. I've obviously seen The Big Lebowski. Why would I freaking lie about that? 1998 classic. I've seen The Big Lebowski, dude. You guys are crazy. It's a good movie. It's a really good movie. It's a great movie, to be honest. Ondas goes red. Was up 1520 and now 1345, down 2%. Silver still up, gold still up. Are you buying Duolingo here? No, but wow, 8% down. Oh my goodness. This green owl. This freaking green owl. See, Duolingo trades at 8 times sales. That's not even that attractive here. Like, that's the worst thing about Duolingo. As it's fallen, it's not really gotten that cheap where it becomes so exciting. The 20 PE, I guess, is relatively decent. But they also don't make a lot of money yet. You know, they're newly profitable. Duolingo right there, 163, down 7.5. I don't know. I would buy SMH over Duolingo. Like, I feel like I have better odds of just betting on the semis. I'd buy Micron over Duolingo. Even with Micron's rally, I feel like I have a better chance of that returning. Rubrik back to 70. Is HIMS still getting hit? HIMS is up a little bit above 20. 30.75. The ITA, has anyone seen this ETF? ITA, iShares US Aerospace and Defense ETF. This one is up. This one was up 60% last year. S&P was up 20%. So the defense stocks obviously massively outperformed the S&P 500. And maybe with all the Trump's announcements last week around defense, that continues to happen. I mean, again, where are we going to get $500 billion to pump into the defense budget? Because if we're just going to print it, it's like, okay, that's fine. But Congress needs to still approve that much money going into the defense spend. I don't know if we will. Rocket Lab right there just goes red. Tesla up a little bit, 448. Flip green on the day. Tempest holding 9%. Archer goes flat. And then Nebius trying to break a 102. Rocket Lab is not tanking. Why are you guys saying Rocket Lab is tanking? It's down 0.29%. If Rocket Lab even holds 80 for the next 6 months, I think that would be incredible. I mean, that's normalizing a really strong range. If 80 is the new 50 for Rocket Lab, you got to be happy about that. Can we short Ondas at current levels? I honestly don't know enough about what they do and their catalysts. But they're in the right thematic, so I wouldn't go short here. Again, it's about the timing of it, right? It was a swing trade 20 minutes ago. Now it's a bag hold. So, like, is it a short or does the short become a bag hold? Like, it's hard to time this stuff. I would say the multiple here is really aggressive on this company, but that hasn't really mattered for the past couple months. So, does it start to matter enough to give it a short? Former Republican and Democratic appointed Fed chairs, Treasury and CEA chair issue statement in support of Fed's Powell. Wow. You got Republican and Democrat appointed Fed chairs, the former ones, coming out in support of Powell. Dude, seeing that video last night was crazy. Seeing Powell come out and say, basically, Trump is prosecuting me because he's upset, not because there's anything legit here. It was just incredible to see that, but he is getting a lot. And by the way, the Fed video, the Fed chair Twitter account got 50 million views. 50 million views. So, and from the comments at least that I saw under it, it was a lot of support for Jay Powell. Like a lot of support for Jay Powell. 55 million views this video got. And most people were in his camp versus against him. Mexico president says, I told Trump Mexico doesn't need U.S. military aid, and I told Trump Mexico is against military interventions. Okay, so we're getting some of those Mexico headlines now from the meeting they had this morning. I don't really think Trump is going to try to go after Mexico, like actually do anything that he did in Venezuela to Mexico, even though he's threatening it. I think Mexico is too much of a vital partner for us to do that. But obviously, if you're the Mexico president, you're probably concerned that that could happen. Micron right there just flipped green. Now, Cuba and Greenland, I think there's a world where he actually tries to do that. The Mexico president says U.S. and Mexico Security Committee will meet on January 22nd. Okay. CRML, that's down 5. Wow, this one pumped up to 17, got hit. Right back down to 14. All right, so maybe 1020, we're seeing a little slam on high beta. Oklo goes down 3%. SoFi still down 3.6. Epsilon was up 5, now it's up 1. Kratos was up 5, now it's up 2. VG still down 3. Oscar down 4, that's below 17 now. Broadcom and Silver continue to give you a move. Nebius, are we getting a move? Okay, Nebius joining the party with CoreWeave and Iren now. All of them up almost 7% on the day. Iren up 4 now. CoreWeave was up 8. Now it's up 9.5. It's a weird market, dude. Weird market, different dynamics happening in a different place. Not a full trend that we're getting. But I think a lot of confusion with more questions than answers. S&P, by the way, almost green, 693. Healthcare, I think, is holding up the S&P along with some parts of tech. And then China continues to move. Is the Clarity Act on the 15th? Is it? I don't know. Clarity Act. I know Supreme Court on the 14th. We should be getting some. Yeah, it is. Senate votes on Jan 15th on the Clarity Act. Okay, that's going to be a big deal. That might be a potential crypto catalyst. We get CPI on Tuesday, PPI at Supreme Court on Wednesday. We have bank earnings starting Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we have the Clarity Act vote on Thursday. Apple picks Google's Gemini to run AI-powered Siri coming this year. Okay, that's not new news. I don't know why CNBC is reporting like that's new news. I guess maybe it's more official than not. But I'm pretty sure all of us knew that was going to happen. All right, look, that's bullish for Google. Obviously, they're going to get access to 2 billion devices. Probably bullish for Apple if they can develop a really strong ecosystem. And then speaking of Google, you got Shopify that has officially partnered with Google. Here's some coverage on that, as that was just announced as well.
NRF yesterday. He was speaking. He was on stage with Walmart's incoming CEO, John Furner, and I think, which shows you, highlights how much they're prioritizing Google. That is this area of business when it comes to AI, agentic commerce. So where are we just going to continue to see these kind of partnerships and announcements from the big retailers and the big AI companies? Where does this go?
Yeah, I mean, look, 12 months ago, I was on stage giving the keynote at NRF. I'm going to give the keynote this year at 2:30 p.m. today. And last year, one of the questions that I got was, is this overhyped? And I said, I think it's underhyped. If you look back over a 12-month period, at least just on Shopify, in terms of orders being sourced from agentic agents, it is up 14x on Shopify alone. So I think that every retailer, large or small, who wants to participate in this next wave of commerce must understand what agentic's going to do. And what we're trying to do is make it so that natively and organically from Shopify, you can do that. Also, for the first time ever, we're opening this up, this UCP, to any merchant that's not on Shopify. So if a merchant who's not currently powered by Shopify wants to participate, they actually can use this. We've created this thing called the Agentic Plan, which is for non-Shopify merchants to also participate, because we think this is that big of a deal.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, like, what it ultimately means for your business. Stocks trading near the highs again. Could we see a retail boom in this country as a result of some of these developments for Shopify and for other retailers, which it's kind of been slow going lately?
I mean, if you look at holiday season, BFCM, for example, was incredibly strong for Shopify. In 2025, we were up about 27% year on year. I heard this morning on CNBC that core retail year on year for December was up, I think it was 3.6% year on year. So certainly it does feel like consumers are buying, but I think the key here, Sarah, is that they're voting with their wallets to buy from brands they love. There's this intentionality now where they're being incredibly thoughtful about who to buy from, where to buy. And this idea that there's now a new surface area. It's not just online or offline or social commerce, but now there's this new surface area called agentic, where so many of us are spending our time, and that can deliver more merit-based results. We think is a massive tilt for commerce and retail. And
Google has officially passed a $4 trillion market cap. There she is. Google is the second most valuable company on the planet. This is the first time, right? I think this is the first time we hit 4 trillion. I think the closest we got was like 3.98 last week. Still less than silver. Oh my gosh. There it is. 4 trillion on Google. Silver's at 4.8. Gold's at 32. Nvidia's at 4.4. And then Google's at 4. Apple's at 3.8. So the top 5 assets on the planet are gold, silver, Nvidia, Google, and Apple. Now, here's the interesting thing. Let's do a poll right here in the chat. I'm curious what people are going to say around this. I'm curious what people are going to say. All right, here's the question. Does Google surpass Nvidia this year in valuation? AKA Google becomes the most valuable company on the planet. That's kind of crazy, dude. We're using a Google product right now with YouTube, which is one of the most influential products on the planet. Wild. 4 trillion for Mr. Google. That means Google would have to add 600 billion in market cap, to just catch up to Nvidia, or Nvidia would have to lose a decent chunk of market cap. Ondas now down 3, Rocket Lab down 1. SoFi down 4, Nvidia flat, MasterCard still down 2. Baba is up 10% today. Goodness, the Chinese stock's getting some love. S&P wants to go green. At least it looks like it does. Shopify, agentic commerce with Google, that's down 1.5, 162 for Shopify. Gemini is overrated compared to Claude. Claude is really delivering on professional stuff. Claude, when it comes to coding, that's what I hear the most, is like the single best LLM that is out there. And it's developing a very sophisticated enterprise business. But Gemini is real. It's growing. And Gemini is not slowing down. And again, it has all of our data, which is the most important thing. 161 on Shop. Claude is sick. I used it to help me write everything. Yeah, I've used Claude here and there on certain things, but I think for the coders, that's where they get the most value out of it. ChatGPT has become my go-to. Can everyone put in the chat, what is their go-to LLM? Because for a while it used to be Grok, and now it is officially GPT. Like, I can't imagine using anything other than ChatGPT. Now, I have an iPhone, so if Gemini is working with Siri, I hope that integration is as good as I get for ChatGPT, but I am on OpenAI every day. Let me do a poll on this. I'm seeing a lot of Geminis here. A lot more Gemini. 50%. Wow, Google surpasses NVIDIA. It's 50, literally 50-50. 50-50 on this. All right, which one do you use daily? We got Grok, Gemini. You got to pick one that you use more, even if you use all of them. Which one would you say you have? Or if you had to pick one to use every single day only. Get the perplexities out of here. We're not putting Perplexity on the poll. Get that nonsense at Perplexity. Who still uses Perplexity, dude? Like, who's going to Perplexity? Search for shit. That's like me saying I use Meta AI. Are you still holding Amcor? Yes. Wow, 46% say Gemini. Huh. 34% on GPT, 17% on Grok. And the people that are using Grok probably are on X, because that's the only reason you know about it, which is how I started using it. By the way, I'm just kidding about Perplexity. I mean, I'm sure some people use it. I have their comment browser. I never really got into using it too much. It's a good product. I don't know if it's going to be a $100 billion company. I think the valuation is $20 billion right now. But they are trying to expand into a lot of verticals, like finance, for example. I don't know if that's enough to get people to use it more than other stuff. Duolingo, like I'm getting kind of bearish on these companies that are being hyper-specific LLM companies, like a finance LLM or a therapy LLM. I think the best ones will win, like Harvey, which is a legal AI LLM, and that one's like really optimized for lawyers. But a lot of them are just going to be commoditized by Gemini or GPT. Like people are just going to go to that to type in their questions about the stock market over some random financial LLM that's out there. Now, maybe Robinhood has a better chance because they have a lot of distribution. And like if you're already on Robinhood, you might use their LLM. But I feel like people are just going to use the core platforms without needing the subsidiary types of platforms. The only reason people use Gemini is because it's free for most. Yeah, but still, that's a market strategy, right? I mean, Google being able to undercut all the competitors, Zeta back to 2450, and capture market share matters. Tesla trying to break 450 here. Trying to break 450 on Tesla. NU, thanks for the super chat. Finally reached a 30,000 portfolio. Thanks to you, Amit. Congratulations on reaching that milestone for the portfolio. Every milestone should be celebrated as you get there. And eventually that 30,000 becomes 50, that 50 becomes 100, and then it just compounds. So congrats on that. That is not a small thing to do, especially, you know, the stat in the United States, 90% of Americans don't have $500 in their emergency savings account. So, you know, being able to get anywhere near $30,000 is incredible. Pounce right there, 179. Kratos up 2.3. Oscar still down 4.3. If SpaceX reverse merges, Tesla goes to 4 trillion overnight. Dude, if that were to happen, oh my gosh. I think it would be so cool because you get to just buy Elon at that point, right? It's his holding company comprised of, I mean, like put XAI in there, put Neuralink, like just make it, they should just make a ticker called ELON. And then boom, that's what you got. But I also don't know from a liquidity perspective if that's the best thing. Because then you have all the SpaceX investors that have to own Tesla stock if they reverse merger. And, you know, maybe they want to be more liquid than being stuck in that type of stock. It would be kind of crazy if it happens. Does that count for his pay package? I think so. I mean, all he has to do outside of the specific numbers of vehicles and all that stuff sold is get the company to a $10 trillion market cap. Which if he does it, then boom, I think he's in action and on the way to get there. Then again, Elon said money doesn't matter. So if money realistically doesn't matter, then maybe the market caps won't be as important either. Okay, so we looked at the Shopify news. We looked at some of the other stuff in regards to the J. Powell investigation, Shopify and Google partnering, Apple and Google partnering. Let's get this Paramount update and see what we've got there, because that continues to be a big story for Netflix.
Only up 1%. Still a show me story there.
I want to take a look at some of the media stocks, particularly Warner Brothers Discovery. We reported earlier Paramount choosing to sue in court in Delaware, trying to get more transparency around how Warner Brothers is choosing, or its board of directors is choosing, to value the global network so-called stub, the spinoff entity, at least as part of its deal to be acquired by Netflix. Remember, Netflix only acquiring the studio and streaming business. And we haven't really heard from the Warner Brothers board around how it truly views the value. There are a lot of as you might imagine, different opinions, certainly in part based on the multiple that our own parent company Versant gets versus what Warner Brothers would say is a far more valuable asset in terms of what it owns. They want that. They also are going to nominate for the board of directors. If there is an annual meeting that in fact could precede the shareholder vote on the Netflix deal. And they also want bylaws to say that there needs to be a vote from shareholders on whether the company should be split. Of course, it was the split that set all this off. That is the bidding war between Netflix and Paramount when Warner Brothers decided to split itself in two. Not a raised bid here, which certainly some had hoped for, and that is why Warner Brothers shares, you can see them down over 2%. What do you hear?
Again, I think Warner Brothers, Paramount's just becoming desperate at this point. The fact that they're nominating for the board of directors, and they don't even have an acquisition approval, is a little ridiculous. The question becomes, when do you buy Netflix? At what point does this become more attractive than not? 89.75. I still continue to believe the multiple compared to their growth prospects is a little up there, and around that like $75 range, I actually probably get a lot more interested. But it's also a really good company that tends to get a premium from the street. I mean, they got a 107 target today by HSBC, initiating coverage on Netflix. Like, is anyone really trying to think Netflix is their play for 2026? Wow, gold 46.30, silver up 7.2%. This is becoming, you know who looks like a genius in the midst of all of this? Peter freaking Schiff. That guy looks like a genius with everything happening with gold. It's just incredible to see this type of a move. Your uncle? Well, he sold silver a while ago, but he bought a lot of calls on the copper miners, and he's up like multiple six figures on that. So he sold silver a bit for as bullish as he was. He ended up selling a little too early, but he rotated into copper, and he's just making a killing off copper. And he has to pay no freaking taxes because he's in Singapore. Which, by the way, we're working on the Singapore meetup stuff, so I will have more details probably in 2 weeks on Singapore meetup. The New York City meetup, again, I'll put the link in the chat. We are about 3 weeks away from the New York meetup. Very excited for Sachin. You have to be at the Singapore meetup. I'm going to hit you up. I know you're in Malaysia, so hopefully you can take a quick flight down there and be there. Looking like it's going to be in May, which is not that far away, to be honest. So I will have details for that. The New York meetup will be in a couple weeks. Peter is on gold since like forever. He waited for decades. Okay, that is true. Peter has been saying gold will go up for a decade. So he's been waiting a long time. But the reason I think he looks smarter than most right now is because Bitcoin is not like really doing what gold is doing. However, if you bought Bitcoin in 2022, it's done a lot better than gold. And that's when Peter was, you could argue, the most bearish on Bitcoin at like 15,000. It's just, gold has vastly outperformed over the past year. S&P still red on the day. CoreWeave up at full 10%. I don't know what the catalyst is for CoreWeave today, but that's getting a lot of love. Ondas down 4, Rocket Lab down 0.5, and Oklo down 4 as well. And we start calling this the Jersey meetup. Just because it's in Jersey doesn't mean we're not going to have a nice view of New York City. It's like really close to New York. So we're going to call it the New York, New Jersey meetup. Did you get new glasses, Amit? Yes. Thank you for noticing. Thank you, Byron. I think you were the first person who noticed. Boy, got some new glasses. So we don't have the massive, massive frames anymore. I like them. I like them a lot. So yes, new year, new me. Hopefully we have the vision to see what's going to happen this year. And hopefully it helps out. What brand? Burberry. Burberry's the brand. Where's NVIDIA? Are we still red? Are we still red? We are still red. This is so dumb, dude. This is so dumb. Called the Yankee Convention. I'm gonna upload the NVIDIA interviews that I did probably tomorrow. I think there's some good interviews and there's some good stuff. There's one guy, Dion Harris, who's like the VP of AI infrastructure. This guy is smart. I mean, the way he explained what's going on with data centers and AI factories and Vera Rubin, I mean, it was quite incredible. So just listening to these executives speak, and a lot of them have been there for like 25 years. Like they just don't want to leave because they understand how special it is. Question is if the street continues to give a premium. Baba, 10%, ServiceNow up 0.5%, AMD up 2.2. Wow. Lynx Equity raised Micron to 550. Dude, do we just bite the bullet and buy this stupid stock? Because we know if this goes to 400, most of us are going to be pissed if we don't own it, given the memory story. But I feel like as soon as we buy it, it's going to tank down to 300. But it's also like we know their earnings are going to be phenomenal. They're only going to raise guidance. If you believe in NVIDIA's growth, you got to believe in Micron. If you believe in AMD's growth, you got to believe in Micron. Like, it's just very hard to doubt it. Or maybe you buy SMH instead as the exposure. Look what happened to Broadcom. Yeah, but Broadcom's multiple was a bit more aggressive than Micron's. Having said that, yes, Broadcom did need to take a bit of a breather. Trade Desk is down 72% over the past year. This one has also gotten hit pretty bad, 37.46. And this is why narratives are so important in the market and why you can't doubt it. Look at Trade Desk's numbers. I mean, their numbers, you would think a business like that would not be down 72% of the past year. Look at this. It's just kind of crazy. This is their revenue compounding as they're down 72%. I sold Micron at 160. I've never had so much regret because I knew better. I sold it out of fear and not a thesis. Terrible reason to do anything in the stock market. Yeah, same thing for Rocket Lab, right? For those that are scared about their Rocket Lab right now because they think it's getting expensive, it's like, well, if you bought it at 20 bucks, 30 bucks, even 40 bucks, I mean, I don't think fear is a reason to sell Rocket Lab right here. It's just it's a fundamentally good company. I don't think it's a meme stock. It's obviously getting a very aggressive multiple, but I don't think that's the reason you sell it. Now, if you bought it at 70, I mean, your downside is not really protected as much. So that's a different question. But if you're in early, I think you leave it. Jeremy said a year ago, NVIDIA will be range bound between 125 and 200. AMD is the play. Okay, that's a big range. Like 125 to 200. I mean, you can make a lot of money within that range. So I don't know if you can go off that range as the basis to buy AMD. But again, like, look, I don't understand the AMD thesis over NVIDIA, given NVIDIA trades at a cheaper multiple on every metric versus AMD. I love AMD. It's awesome. But once again, I will bring it up. People hate when I bring it up, but it is the truth. This stock would not be above $200 if Lisa Su did not agree to give up 10% of the company to OpenAI. Everyone seems to forget about that. There's a great AMD thesis, phenomenal company, but it was stuck at 150. You're talking about range bound. This thing was stuck at 150 for 5 months until Lisa Su said, fine, you could have 10% of the company, which was a good deal, by the way. I think it made sense for her to do that. But without that, I mean, the street's not giving it this nice of a multiple. And still, that multiple is more expensive than NVIDIA. So I think both will do well, but I don't think there's a fundamental reason why AMD has to. I mean, you could say inference matters more, but still the demand for GPUs in general from NVIDIA, I think, will supersede it. Also, their margins aren't even as good as NVIDIA. So it's like at the end of it's not a bad name to own. It's just like there shouldn't be a reason AMD massively, massively outperforms NVIDIA. That's like $30 billion in revenue per year for 5 years. Yeah, if OpenAI is actually going to pay. I mean, there's a reason NVIDIA has not announced a definitive agreement with OpenAI. But AMD has. And I don't think it's because AMD has better quality chips. I think it's because NVIDIA is like, I don't know if these guys have the money. Even, dude, when I was at the Q&A, there was a guy who asked Jensen a question. It was a good question until he got to the end, and I think the last sentence pissed him off. He was like, Jensen, you have 60 billion in cash, like blah, 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 blah. What are you going to do with the money? Yada, yada. And then his last part of the question was, you can't just give all of it to OpenAI. I think you could tell Jensen got a little pissed and he started answering the question, but he was just annoyed that they were implying that they have to give the money to OpenAI. When NVIDIA has definitively said we're not sure if we're going to give any money to OpenAI, to be honest. AMD thesis is simple, is that demand is so high that NVIDIA can't meet all of it, and to capture market, it will be sold cheaper. They are distant second from NVIDIA, but far ahead of the other chip makers 3 and down. Yeah, look, I think that's also very fair. And based on what Lisa Su said, with 5 billion people over the next, what she said, 4 or 5 years coming online to embrace AI, which is why I'm thinking SMH is the ETF play over the next couple of years as well. Like, if we believe in these projections by Jensen and Lisa around how much sheer demand there is, which is what I think the fund managers to start of 2026 have decided, just pile into the semis. You buy the semis and you don't look back, because you know that demand is eventually going to inflect into increased earnings, which will increase net income. Increased net income will expand the PE, and all these companies will probably continue to move higher. And AMD will capture a lot of that growth that NVIDIA can't capture simply because of how high demand is. But it also means that AMD shouldn't go to 270 and NVIDIA should be stuck at 185. Like that feels very weird to see how that would play out. SMH is the new SaaS. Yes, exactly. That's what it feels like. Who's going to grow percentage more? I think it's still NVIDIA this year. I think NVIDIA is going to compound at 45 to 50%, and AMD is doing 35%. I think NVIDIA is still growing top line, and that's conservative guidance too. We'll see what Jensen says in Q4. Like, I don't see a world where Jensen comes out, they do freaking 68 billion in revenue, guide for minimum 45% next year, gross margins at 72%, and this stock is flat. Like, I cannot see another 6 months of this thing being flat on those numbers. But maybe that's what happens. Maybe the street continues to be afraid that it's too cyclical and it's not a real revolution. Robinhood right there, 118. That's up 2.38% as that goes green. Higher, thanks for the super chat. Intel outperforms NVIDIA and AMD easily this year. You know, I can't even say that's a crazy thesis. Not on anything fundamental, but I do think that Trump and Jensen being part of this company will keep it pumping. I mean, Intel already is outperforming both of them. 18% year to date. I really wanted to buy this in January, like early January, end of December. I think I talked about it on the show. I just don't have a fundamental reason other than I think they're not going to let this company fail. Now, China invades Taiwan. That might be another reason why Intel goes higher. But that might just also crash the entire market. Talk about Microsoft. All right, what are we doing with Microsoft this year? Are we touching it? I don't think anyone has been talking too much about Microsoft. 478. This one was at 550 in July. Has not done anything for about 7 months. Google and Amazon have at least broken out. Google officially broken out. Amazon trying to break out. Microsoft's been stuck. Brad said he liked Microsoft. Yeah, Brad Gerstner's buying more NVIDIA too, if I'm not wrong. CoreWeave was his favorite data center play. I mean, here's the question. Would you rather buy Tesla here or Microsoft for the rest of the year? I know, a lot of people might think Microsoft is the better discounted rate for a stock, but like, I don't know. Elon shows off something with Optimus, gets the street excited. I mean, feels like there's a world where that one outperforms. Seems 50-50. Let's do a poll on that. Tesla or Microsoft. Dude, Elon's speaking with too much confidence. Like the way he's talking about AI, and it's either him BSing or he's like really confident that Tesla's getting close in a profound way, and that they're going to capture a lot of the value and the upside from it. Do you buy Tesla or Microsoft this year? If you have to pick one. But the earnings is going to suck. Like we know the deliveries were not good. Like we know the earnings are not going to be that good. It's just now they've kind of positioned themselves in a really, really strong spot to capture most of this ecosystem. Although, there was a lot of companies around self-driving at CES. I mean, the biggest thing about Tesla is that they have got to expand to cities quickly. Because Waymo is going to do Waymo did 20 million rides last year. They're probably going to do more than that substantially this year. They're expanding to London and Tokyo soon. You got a lot of these other companies across the world that are heating up in this race. Uber's obviously still involved in terms of fleet management. I mean, Tesla's just got to expand and show their product is better in as many cities as possible. And it's got to happen sooner than later. I saw Waymo in New York yesterday. Yeah, New York I still think is a little tough for self-driving. But the fact that they're there is the exciting part. Tesla right there, 448. Yeah, AV Ride, Nebius has a stake in them. Any earnings you're excited about this week, Amit? Yes, pretty much all of them. We have Delta. We have JP Morgan, Citi, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo. Citi is one I think it could be a really good one. BlackRock, and then Wells Fargo. So, I mean, all these banks are going to be super important this week to see what they put up. Robinhood has a new IPO called BitGo. Is this a crypto exchange? Crypto startup. They're raising $201 million. $15 to $17 IPO. Wow, is this one of the first IPOs of the year? Looks like we're getting started. Looks like we're getting started. January 12th. BitGo to go public, $2 billion valuation. Does anyone use BitGo? This is an exchange, the digital asset infrastructure company. 9 million wallets, 100 billion in assets. They provide wallet services, prime services, ecosystem, network, staking. Is this a pure crypto infrastructure play? I would assume Bitcoin price still affects it to an extent because they have a lot of assets under custody, but it looks like they do a lot more than just allow you to trade crypto. Okay, guess we got a new IPO. I think it's live on Hood right now, so people can apply for shares. CoreWeave, that's up 10, S&P. Oh yeah, that was the SoFi rumored purchase. I forgot. Makes sense. They're going public at $2 billion. People were thinking SoFi would buy them out at around that range. Oh, SoFi came out and said they're paying down their debt. That's why they raised the money. So that wasn't going to be the case. All right, what else? What else do we got? Talked about the J-Powell stuff. Capital One down 6%, dude. I mean, the credit is a big part of their business. American Express down 5%. I feel like these are dip buys. I feel like the Trump thing doesn't happen and they reverse. Oracle almost at 200. But then again, what if Trump pulls something out and he really does find a way to cap credit cards at 10%? BMNR right there, 2.5. Duolingo's down 8. Bitcoin once again trying to crack above 92. Got there last night. But it did not happen. Siege, thank you for the $20 super chat. Dude, we forgot to go to Pawn Stars and go to the shop. We went on a hike instead. We went on a freaking hike, dude. That was the one day we had open. I told Davis about it. I was like, dude, we should go to the pawn stop. But we went on a hike. Next time I'm in Vegas. I'm pretty sure I'll be in Vegas again later this year. So we will see if that shop can give us a good deal. This was the view, though. Look at that. That's the entire city. I like hiking, dude. I like it. It was fun. No internet. Just you and your boy. It started snowing, too, in the desert. Look at this. It's freaking snowing in Vegas. It was crazy. Did you see any snakes? No, we didn't see any snakes. We didn't see any like creatures or anything. I almost fell a couple times though. Like badly, but I survived. So yeah, I wanna do more hikes like that. I think there's a place to hike in Jersey, but not like what we saw in Vegas. That shit was crazy. It's like you're literally climbing up a mountain. Broadcom almost at 350. Netflix trying to get back to 90. Iran also very close to 50. The trail was Red Rocks. Red Rocks. It was fun. I think it was 4 miles up and down in total. So it was a good time. Did you stub your toe? No, but I did twist my ankle. I said turn my ankle last Friday, and I realized I meant to say twist, not turn. So I did twist my ankle a couple times, but not enough to the point where I was like limping or anything. But it ended up being okay. TSM, that's still green so far, trying to get back to 27, a little rebound from 26.93. Trying to get back to 27. Palantir just below 180. Do you think the Jan 15th voting will affect BMNR? I know that Tom is really pushing to get everyone to vote yes on this dilution. I don't know. I don't know what impact it's going to have on it. I mean, they want to get a lot of shares ready to have the ability to dilute. I think ultimately it is contingent on Ethereum at the end of the day. If we get crypto winter, Bitmine becomes one of the best buys in the market. If we don't, then it just stays flat and it doesn't become that growth play a lot of people thought about. But it really just depends on Ethereum. Nebius 104. Okay, that's moving higher. This one's got to actually hold it. And then BABA, I don't even see a real China headline today, but BABA 11%. Looks like getting a little rotation into China. If crypto winter BMNR goes to $3 or $4. Well, if ETH goes to 1800, I think it can go to 10, 15. ETH would have to go to like $1,000, which seems unlikely given all the momentum around stablecoins and tokenization that we're seeing on the Ethereum blockchain. Here's the thing: if we get a crypto winter, I feel like we're getting a nuke on the S&P 500, right? We're definitely going down 15% on the S&P. Or is crypto going to be able, Zeta back to green again, is crypto going to be able to go down and the S&P stays up? Like, I find that hard to imagine that crypto gets nuked by 50% and the S&P stays up. But if that does happen, that would be really ugly for Robinhood, MicroStrategy, Bitmine, Coinbase, all of those. I did not look further into OSS. I heard a little bit of the thesis last week. I have not bought it. So if you did buy, congrats, 18%. I think there is a legit thesis. I just really have not gone deep into it. And I would read the PR they put out on Friday or Wednesday to get a better understanding of why that name has moved. Ethereum 31.25, Open Door still down 3, and then Oracle above 200. Again, Michael Burry is short Oracle, like officially short Oracle. That one's up above 200. Don't forget AOC and Bernie tried to pass a bill for credit card caps at 10%. It never worked. Well, not only AOC and Bernie, but Bernie and Josh Hawley. So you had a Democrat and a Republican come together. They couldn't get the votes, which is why I have no idea how Trump thinks this is going to be passed. And it just feels like the dip on these financial names is stupid because it probably doesn't get passed. But maybe there's an executive action that they're trying to get into the market, which is going to be challenged in the courts, just like the Supreme Court is challenging the tariffs. And we should hopefully get an answer on Wednesday. What happens with that? I feel like the Consumer Bureau of Financial Protections would be the agency that Trump forces to do this. But like, do they even have the authority to get it done? Do you think the Powell news is a nothing burger? I think it is a something burger that could be a nothing burger if it dies down and the investigation is not that serious. Could it become a something burger? Yes. I mean, if they choose to drag this out for 5 months and Trump seriously puts his best lawyers on investigating Powell, I think that would be an issue. Oh yeah, Doge did gut the CFPB. You're right. I forgot. Oh, then who? I mean, like, who's going to institute this then? Yeah, April of 2025, Doge eliminated the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. All right, so then what institute is going to actually, like, that is going to be quite funny then. If they just try to do a regular executive order, I don't know how they have an actual legal justification to make it happen. Did you see Rich Tech Robotics at CES? So I didn't see them. I think Evan saw them at the booth. Rich Tech Robotics is the one with the hand that like delivers you the drinks or whatever, right? Like it. I did see. I don't know if it was Rich Tech, but I did see a machine that like makes your coffee. It probably could have been Rich Tech, or maybe it would have been another competitor to them. So I didn't get to explore that deeply, but I will say, just anecdotally from all the stuff that I saw, it does feel like that is going to become a real thing. Yeah, the one with the thing that like makes your coffee for you with like a robotics hand. Like it feels. San Francisco has a bunch of them right now. They did have a partnership with NVIDIA last year. Stock's up 80% over the past year. I mean, this is going to become real, dude. We're not going to have baristas in 10 years. I don't understand how we do when we have this level of automation, which is going to be way quicker than a regular barista. But is it enough to buy the stock at these levels? Like, I don't know. Trades at 128 times sales. Like, I just feel like there's easier buys with less risk. But it is a small cap, below $1 billion. There's a kind of a weak booth. Well, we definitely don't have to give tips anymore. Dude, the most awkward thing is when like you're at a Starbucks and they like you're paying for it and the cashier's looking at you and then it comes on the tip page and it's like 0, 15, 20. And it's like you click 0, you just seem like a dick. So it's like you kind of have to pick between 15 or 20. And you have to like, it's like the social pressure to give a tip in that moment is very high. So you kind of have to. Now, if you're from Europe, I know you guys don't know what a tip means, but in the United States, there's pressure. I prepay with my app to avoid it. Oh my gosh. Bitcoin 91.6. That's still going green. Can't believe your guys' tipping culture. Makes me sad because I know the reason behind it, but still. Yeah, the reason behind it is like cashiers, etc., waitresses, they don't get paid enough. And so the burden goes to the customer more than anything. Most places in Denver do 20, 22, 25, or 30% tips as the preset button. That's pretty crazy. I've kind of solved the issue for me. I told you guys a while ago, I take 2% of whatever I make per year and I cash it out, literally in $100 bills. And I keep a decent chunk of it on me if I'm traveling or whatever. And that's how I give out my tips. And I like really over tip because in general, that's how I kind of give back. Instead of donating to like some nonprofit, I just literally give out the cash. I don't tend to do it at Starbucks per se, like I do it in other places, but Starbucks is one place where they kind of force you to do the tip. Dude's gonna get robbed after this. Probably I'm gonna get robbed. Like I saw a bunch of homeless people in Vegas, gave them some money. Like I do it every 6 months. So every 6 months I take 2% out, cash it, and try to give it out as much as I can. Yeah, we talked about the Duolingo CFO stepping down. Stock's down 8% right here. Oh, dude, I didn't even tell you guys. So when I was in the hotel at the Rio, me and Davis were getting dinner, and I left my book bag in the corner. And then we went upstairs. I went upstairs, like, oh shit, I forgot my book bag. So I go downstairs, and my book bag is gone. Because obviously a random bag stuck in a hotel, like, the security is going to catch that immediately. So they caught it. And then I had to wait like an hour and a half for them to come back to give me my bag. And in that bag is a ton of cash that I was supposed to give out to people. And then 2 is a laptop. And on that laptop are 2 stickers of the name of a company that, given the media coverage around them, the security might feel a certain way, which is Palantir. I have 2 big ass Palantir stickers on my MacBook. And so I was like, yeah, this is not going to go well for me. This is not, they're going to think this laptop is like spying on the world or some crazy shit. And so they finally find me, and they're like, the biggest concern they had was that I had a ton of cash in there. And I'm like, how are you guys concerned that in Vegas, where people are gambling, I have cash in my book bag? Like, they were so concerned about the cash. I think they thought I stole the cash or something. And like, they were probably concerned that there was a random bag stuck in the middle of a restaurant, which, like, yes, that's concerning. I get it. But there was nothing in the bag. It was just a laptop. It was nothing crazy. But they were like, we need you to tell us exactly how much money you had in the bag. And thank goodness I remembered how much cash I had, because like I remembered how much I gave out versus how much I took out. And they were like really upset. Yeah, I guess they thought I was money laundering. And I was like, dude, it's Vegas. Of course people have cash. Like, so I almost lost my back. S&P goes green. Kind of, 694.07. Okay, I did not have like 10,000. It was under 5,000. It was under 5,000. It wasn't crazy. But like, that's not Vegas. Like, dude, people walk around with like 20, 30 grand of cash in Vegas. It's freaking Vegas. So I was surprised they were that concerned about cash. Should have said you're a stripper. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's how I almost lost my book bag. Dude, if I lost my laptop, it would have been so bad. It would have sucked to lose it. Thankfully, I had my wallet on me. But it would not have been fun. Some police departments seize your unusual amount of cash. Yeah, they seized it. I had to tell them exactly how much I had for me to even get the cash back. But at least I ended up getting back. Applied Digital, that's up 3. ServiceNow, that's up 1. TSM, that's up 0.74. CoreWeave, that's up 11%. I do need to throw an AirTag in. I have an AirTag on my wallet. I need to put one in my book bag. It's actually a good idea, just in case. All right, what else? What else do we have? Are we pretty much done? We talked about this FedChair story. I don't think there's any more coverage that's really going to move the needle here. Got a bunch of senators coming out in support of Powell. Google announces new live sports and biddable CTV features, including access to NBC Universal's Olympic Winter Games. Okay, so YouTube TV getting more excitement. Is Amazon moving? Are we finally going to see 250 on this bad boy? Amazon 247.96. Hood, a little bit of a different move as that's up. Oh, he means the police can just take your cash without any reason. That would have sucked if they took the cash. Thankfully they didn't. But what if you were off by 1,000? I don't know. If I said the wrong number, I don't know if they would have taken. I mean, I knew the exact number, but I don't really know what would have happened. I would have just told them, like, guys, like, I left my computer. It's not that big of a deal. I'm not money laundering. If there was like 50 grand of cash or something crazy, like I could understand, but it wasn't that. Salesforce slightly flat on the day. Green, Grab up 1%, Zeta up 0.5%. And there you go. The S&P goes green, 11 o'clock. S&P goes green. All right, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't think we have anything else crazy happening. Nebius broke above 105. That's bullish. Hopefully we can hold above 105. Iran breaking above 50. The data center names, once again, getting some love. Now, again, those names get hit every other day, so we got to see if they can hold on to it. CoreWeave, massive day up 12%. There's no news either for CoreWeave. I think that's kind of leading the sector. But that's holding up. OSS is up. Oracle is up. Microsoft red. The Bitcoin at 91.7. SoFi as well coming back around. Well, see, that's the other thing. With all the different headlines that happen with Trump, it's like how much of it is enough to actually create that massive drawdown that everyone is saying is possible? And it's like, I don't know if it's going to be that much. Or if that is easily going to happen if earnings are still good. So I mean, Tuesday we start off earnings. And Tuesday we get to see if earnings can continue. Yeah, S&P all-time highs. There you go. Fortunately, NVIDIA is not participating in it, and a lot of the other AI names, but it's kind of crazy that S&P is at all-time high and Robinhood's stuck below 120. Like, that is wild. Because you would think, like, all right, Hood's a proxy on the bull market. We have a major bull market, high beta names, S&P's up, but Hood's not running. But again, I think it's because the crypto stuff is delayed, and maybe this volatility is not the type of volatility that's benefiting Hood because, you know, the biggest names in the world aren't really moving with it. How awesome is the Bitcoin price stability? We've never seen anything like it outside of winters where it's just in the basement and sideways. Yeah, and maybe this is the accumulation phase for Bitcoin for that next leg up. And maybe in 6 months, we're all going to feel stupid not buying more at 91. Or it's stuck at 91 in 6 months and it just becomes an opportunity cost. But it's really hard to determine how it's going to play out, especially if this is the year where it should take a massive retracement. I did not get to the SoundHound booth at CES. I didn't see a lot of booths. I mean, I walked around the floor for a little bit, but honestly, I was tired, bro. I was so tired. And so I went to see what it was like, but at some point I just had to get out of there. Okay, there you go. That's what we got for today. Let's do word of the day. We'll be out of here. I'll be back tomorrow, or I'll be back on the close. We will have Jason on tomorrow for Technical Tuesday. And we'll have the first technicals of the new year. And we'll see what he's thinking as we get into 2026. All right, word of the day is... I do not know how to say this word. You can't? There's no way people know this word. There's no way. Casually calm and unconcerned, showing a relaxed confidence in situations that might rattle others. Okay, let's see it. Insouciant is what I'm going with.
Insouciant.
Okay, see that was not gonna happen. That was not gonna happen, folks. Insouciant. While everyone else stressed over short-term swings, he stayed almost insouciant, focused on the long game. It's a good word. I haven't heard of this one before. Insouciant. Is it French? The Bears stayed pretty insouciant over the weekend, dude. That game was crazy. Shout out to Chicago, man. That game was wild. It is a French word from the 1800s. Insouciant. All right. That's what we got. We got to remember this one. We got to remember this one. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Love you all. Back in the studio. Back here every single day. Market open, market close. We'll be here probably for the next month and a half until we have to travel again. So excited to be back. Excited to be in a routine. And we got a lot to analyze, a lot to get into, and we will have earnings starting in a couple of days. And we will keep going from there. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys in the close. And we'll see you later today. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.